Hey now.
Man, those drums, huh?
It is Wednesday night. This is
Man, those
HALENVILLE
drums, huh?
Live. Look at all the people here tonight.
Wednesday night. This is HALENVILLE Live.
Somebody got their YouTube on? One of you guys?
Don't hear it now.
All right. Thanks. All right. So, welcome. This is the Kramer 5150 Guitar Forum. That's what this is.
Welcome, you guys.
What a rogues gallery we got tonight.
My goodness.
Yeah, it is. So we talked about this show for a while, John, and we tried to put together the people that know the most about this guitar, and yeah, look at them here.
It's like Hollywood Squares.
Circle takes the square.
All right.
Yeah, so
Who we got with us, Rob?
there you
Or
go.
John?
Yeah, Rob. Go ahead, Rob. We got Rob Johnson up in the top left corner there.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing?
Good to
More
see you.
Rob, how you doing,
Alex.
dude?
Alex Van
Come on,
Halen.
Rob.
Hey there, hi there, ho there.
We got
Beautiful.
David Nesdall in the center on the top. Hey, Dave.
Ah,
Hey, Dave, what's going on, man?
David.
Got Chris Locke from Locke Custom Guitars on the top right.
What's up, buddy?
Chris.
Awesome.
Nice to see you.
Awesome.
Got Donny Ward from Vestige Guitars underneath him in the middle on the right.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, Donnie.
And then I
Doing
guess
well.
everybody knows the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so we're pretty excited about talking about this. And, you know, it seemed to get a lot of heat when in the title of it said facts from fiction. A lot of people had problems with that because, you know, there aren't that many facts, I guess, but some of them we know things we know to be true about the guitar. But, you know, I guess, you know, right off the bat, we'll go and say everybody's got a different opinion on the wood. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And everybody's got a different opinion about the pickup. We'll talk about that a little bit too. But, you know, we're gonna go over the whole guitar. And first, we're gonna start with the origins of the guitar. So, you know, let's go back to 1981, 1982 at Kramer. And you guys want to, you know, what was going on there at Kramer at that time when Ed signed on there? Dave, you want to take that?
I said, geez, where do you start? Dennis Berardi went to Van Halen's house and said, I've got this Floyd Rose thing. This thing, you know what? I don't even know where to start. Started with Floyd Rose, and then basically, boy, Rob, you got to help me here.
Wasn't the Rockinger? Didn't Ed have the Rockinger first?
Yes, he
And
had
then-
a guitar, but he
Donnie's
bought
got it.
that guitar.
Donnie's got it.
It was a purple guitar that Eddie bought. He played it with Alan Holsworth. He actually bought that guitar. It was not given to him.
And that had the Rockinger on it.
A Rockinger on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
Eddie had a couple of Rockingers. He had one on the yellow double neck. Basically, what was going on? There's a little bit of debate on how the time frame, but it looked like when Kramer was had come out and Eddie was dealing with Kramer, Rockinger came out. Eddie was trying that. Oh, he didn't really like the brassy kind of sound. There's an interview that he did with I'm trying to remember. I think it was Steve Rosen, and he was saying, you know, I'm just not really into that brassy kind of sound. And then Floyd came along. There was stuff going on with Fernandez in Japan and things like that. And, you know, basically what happened was Rockinger thought they had it. They termed it as the Edward Van Halen tremolo. So he was trying them out. Then Floyd kind of came out of nowhere and the deal that they had. Again, it's kind of sketchy. It's hard to get accurate information. Darren from who's I know is watching this just did a video on this, and he gets into a little bit of detail on kind of the Rockinger Floyd thing. But basically, Floyd just kind of came out of the woodwork, and they ended up going with Floyd. So basically, if you go back though to Eddie's original Frankenstrat, when he first started putting the FRT ones on the guitars, and the FRT ones are the Floyd Roses that don't have any fine tuning first version. That's kind of when things started getting experimented. I'm not going to go up and pull all these guitars out. We'll never get through tonight, but we had them on the Bumblebee guitar was one of the ones that had one of the first FRT ones on. It was actually
Donny's got one right there.
Donny's got one. It was actually a lot of people think it was black, and some people think it was gold. It was not. It was actually a chrome guitar. Actually, excuse me, I take that back. It was not plated chrome. It just had no plate.
Steel. It was a steel trim.
Rob, is it true that the Bumblebee had a lot of tuning instability?
Yeah, Eddie was always fussing with the thing. He could never get it to sound right. He was messing with pickups. He was doing different things. And my Bumblebee over there has an FRT1 that basically I helped rust exactly the same way, and it looks exactly like Eddie's did. So, between the Bumblebee and the Circles guitar, the Rude guitar, he was using FRT1s. And again, not to make it a Floyd Rose thing, but then, the FRT 2s and 3s came out, and then ultimately the 5, which is what this is. It's an original Hanson Metalworks Whale Tail came out, and the 5150 was one of those guitars that was graced with that bridge, along with a 1984 in its original stage.
I got my mouse working now, guys. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So I don't want to take up the whole thing, but yeah. So the FRT5 was. I turned my camera. They got posters over here with Eddie having them on there, but that was the 5150 had an original FRT5, and over the course of the years, he switched some saddles out and did some different things to it. We can get into that later.
Right. So Paul Unkert was involved with that, but Paul Unkert left Kramer, I think, at the fall of '82, correct? And so he really didn't have much to do with that guitar overall, right? I mean, now, did he actually? Is that the neck on the 5150? Is that a ESP neck, or is that a custom made? Is that a Tom Anderson? Who made that neck?
Paul made the neck.
Paul made the neck.
Paul absolutely made that neck. The headstock is made from a beak or a Strat style headstock. Maybe it was a beak. Maybe it was
now, Donny, you think it's coming from the beak, correct? The way it lines up, or something like that.
Right. Well, in fairness, it could have been either, and I think this is why we include the Strat as a possibility, because as you guys probably know, they were making Strat headstock necks, but they got a cease and desist from Fender, so they just lopped the ball off the end, and that's how we got the beak. Now, with that said, when they actually tooled up to do these things as a beak from the beginning, the shape differed a little bit from the Strat. It's just sort of ambiguous because we're just going off that one line of the crack. Right. But yeah, I think it was an ESP factory beak that was modified by Paul in late '82, along with a bunch of others that he did around this time.
Well, he told me that he had made the neck.
Oh, is that right?
He told me that he made most of those necks, the original necks for most of the Frankenstein looking guitars, and that guitar and the '84 guitar and the Hot for Teacher guitar. He said he actually made those necks, but they were beaks, and then he put his grandfather's bedpost on the edges, on the ends, glued them on, and shaped the guitar.
And that was birch, right? Birch, that the pieces that he added on from the grandfather's bed.
And when Dave and I Dave's met Paul many more times than I have, but the time back in 2015 when Dave, myself, and Anthony Sajazi went out and had dinner with Paul and went back to his shop. I actually brought my Neptune guitar down. He did some work to my Neptune stamp. That was kind of cool because he built the original Neptune. But Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. Paul had said he actually had there were actually three templates of headstocks. There was the 150, there was the Hot for Teacher, and there was the Kramer ad guitar headstock shape.
Basically, he didn't name it that. There was a small, medium, and large. That's all he said. There was small, medium, and large.
And it's pretty easy if you look at the various necks to determine which one of those templates was used for each, because it's quite distinctive.
Yeah. But he did say that the 5150 was the middle one, I think, the size, and he did like that one the best, I believe, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
All right. So the next now, so they had a heavy coat of polyurethane on them, right, or whatever. You guitar guy, neck guys over there, Donny and.
You have examples of those, Donny, right there beside you.
Yeah. So what I brought just to kind of show the evolution of the neck, because I figured this would come up. This is pretty much what an ESP or a similar beak neck would have looked like when it was manufactured and ready to use. Except this one doesn't have frets, of course. So what they did, as you can see from the pictures we posted, and if you've seen pictures of the original, is they plugged these tuner holes with dowels. Paul did, I should say. And then he added wings here, and then he continued this line straight through and added a wing here, and that allows you to reshape the headstock like that. So it's kind of tough to line these up, but I'll try it for demonstration. So if you get those lined up, which I have not done very well, you should be able to kind of see how the joints line up, and the birch dowels on my headstock here line up with the old tuner holes.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the evolution of how it started as a peak. I do have an original 1982 neck that came off of this B series pacer. This is a B2920 is the serial on this. I replaced it with one of mine because the frets were dead on it. I could go grab it, but on the point of polyurethane, my original neck did have quite heavy poly on it, and it's when Dave mentioned, because I had never heard that Paul said that he made the beak first and then modified it. It's interesting to me because my thought was that he was sanding the poly off, and that's what led to the asymmetric carve.
So Chris has got one right there. You could see. Look at the shine on that thing from the poly up there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Pretty heavy.
Actually, the finish on this one, the serial's B4318. It's thin. I mean, it's really, really thin, and it's worn through in spots on the back also.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it's not a heavy finish on this neck, at least. I don't know. Maybe they varied on the different necks, but this one at least was pretty thin.
So that one is a one piece, right? It's there's no skunk stripe or anything on that one, right, Chris? So
it's two pieces.
No, it would be two piece. Yeah.
That's two piece. All right. So, but the one that Paul made Eddie that has the skunk stripe on it. That's the real one. Yeah. So there you go.
This is another one. This is a 1982 Pacer version too. Same exact thing.
And do we know like the radius, and is it compound radius? It's not, right?
It's basically 10-inch.
10-inch. And
and the other thing, I guess, is a small misconception, but the frets on these necks were huge. I mean, you can kind of see they were big frets.
Oh my God.
Super jumbo.
Like frets.
Also, just so everyone knows, the 5150 guitar also has jumbo frets on it. So everyone thinks that, since Eddie's been using vintage style frets from the Music Man era to today, that the 5150 had small frets on it. Not true. It had big frets on it.
So did I hear that correctly? That it has a straight radius, and it was around a 10-inch radius, and it's a straight radius, not compound.
That's right.
Did that hold true to it couldn't have, I guess, but did that hold true to the various models of the 5150?
What do you mean?
Well, say, would the radius have been the same on the 1 star as opposed to the 2 stars number 2? It does the hot for teacher.
Well, you got to understand, there's only one 5150 guitar. So when you say
there are other versions. Okay.
There is only one. It says 5150 on it. You got to, when you say hot for teacher, that's only one guitar. 84 guitar is only one guitar. So people also make that mistake. Oh, it's a 5150 guitar. No, it's not. It doesn't say 5150 on it.
Right.
You know,
I
they're
got you.
very
I
specific.
got you.
So,
Okay.
so Charles, you're talking about basically the ones like Unkert made. They were probably all non-compound
Yes,
radius. 10,
that's what I'm
right?
talking about. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Regular striped
They are,
Kramers.
they are, because the Vitas Garolitis Music Zoo guitar, which I've played many times, has one of Unkert's necks on it. It's also 10-inch radius.
I got you. Okay, thank you. Thanks for clearing that up, Dave. That's awesome.
And what is it at the nut? Like 2 3/16? So you think that's
No, it's a 1 5/8.
1 5/8? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
So on that, I figured I'd break out my my one piece 82 Kramer pacer while we were talking about it, because Chris has a pacer, Rob's got a pacer, but they're both 2-piece, and I don't know if Chris, when I was away, if he would describe the veneer fretboard, but in any event, this is an example of a 1-piece Kramer, which you don't see that often. I tend to find for sale the 2-piece ones more often because everyone snags these up, I guess. But this is pretty much the 5150. Just add the wings, plug the holes, reshape the headstock. But this is, like I was saying, it came off that B2 pacer, and it's set up for the Rockinger and all that. But yeah, I mean, on mine, where you see that the poly's chipped, and I'm calling it poly because I'm not a finish expert, but on the heel, it looks pretty thick from mine, but it can vary. I've heard that some of these they did not tint. You see, this one's a nice amber tinted color.
Right.
I've heard that some of them were just straight clear, some of them are poly, some of them were lacquer. So there's a lot of unknowns. Not just about the 5150, but Kramer in general. It seems to have been kind of all over the place.
Whatever was laying around that day, right?
Exactly. yeah. So
you hear that about Marshalls, about that's why Marshalls are like some are more magical than others because of the caps and things were different and stuff like that. You always hear stories like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so obviously we know that. I don't know if Eddie, when it was delivered, if they scraped it off with the razor blade, but you've heard that he scraped it off with the razor blade.
He scraped it off, and I mean, no one knows this for sure. He either got bored with doing it, or he was in a drunken stupor when he was doing it and didn't finish it. Right. But if you look at this neck is exactly scraped the way his was scraped. Now, the light parts is where the finish would be, and the dark parts are where he scraped off the finish.
And that's because the finish protects the wood of the neck from things like grime and dirt, where
Correct.
It's been scraped away, it gets all grungy.
Yeah. Correct.
So, okay, so that guitar was made probably in the fall or early of '83 because we know we had it at the US Festival in end of May '83. So, I mean, I don't know when it would have been delivered to him. Probably, April or May. I'm assuming something like that.
Well, I would imagine that the parts were made individually way before that.
Right.
I would say in '82, before Unkert left the company, the guitar was put together in '83
when he
got painted, right? Yeah,
now
that's a good point to make.
It was put together before he got it by people like Kramer. It wasn't put together by Rudy out of the parts and things like. You hear all these different stories about it that Eddie could have put it together. He says he did. Some people say, "Oh, Rudy did it from parts." The necks were shipped out to Eddie, and and the bodies were just being shipped out. But I mean, do we have any kind of like confirmation that does anybody?
Nobody knows. It could very well be that way. It could also very well be that Eddie went to Kramer one morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, because he was known to do this. Go to Kramer, 8 o'clock in the morning, get there before everyone else, and tell Dennis Berardi, I want a guitar built by 5 o'clock when I leave. And then he leaves with the guitar.
And that includes painted too.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know. I think it's plausible that he got parts because we've seen pictures of inside 5150 where he's got stacks of Kramer bodies just laying around. So, I mean, it's possible, but
I think both of those scenarios are quite likely, and it's hard, therefore, like anything with this guitar, to say which for sure. But I think one more point on him having been sent parts is that certain guitars look very similar in how they're painted. The 84, the 5150, you can tell that they were painted around the same time by the same person. Then you have other guitars like the Hot for Teacher, which has a completely different style and could have been made quite a bit ahead of time, and then when they get enough bodies or whatever, they ship them to Ed, and he puts them together with whatever body and neck he feels should go together. So I mean, it's another unknown. We know that he got parts, like Chris said, later on. He could have been getting them earlier. It's just so tough because they were kind of hiding away at the time that this guitar was built. The band was. Kramer never really had good records, so no one remembers.
And it also depends on which Kramer employee you speak to.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what? I'm going to go on record by saying, listen, I love George Felice as a human being. I love Paul Unkert as a human being. I've spoken to both of these people ad infinitum, and both swear they made the guitar. They both swear they painted the guitar. Now, I know that Felice painted a ton of Van Halen guitars. My only problem with either one of those guys saying that they did the guitar is, before that, those numbers were adorned on that guitar, they would never have known from 5150 or 84 or which guitar was which. They've painted so many of them. How could they tell which ones were which, especially after this amount of time?
Right.
So it's all suspect to me, even with the guys that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And Donny and I had this conversation. I mean, Paul Unkert told me that the last one he painted for Eddie was the Hot for Teacher.
Yes, I was told that too by Paul.
Now, if you look at the Hot for Teacher and you look at the 5150 and the 84, they're totally different types of paint schemes.
Exactly, Rob. And the double neck Unkert made, and that paint, that style of paint reminds me more of the Hot for Teacher. Right. So I always thought that Unkert did the Hot for Teacher and the double necks.
And
sure.
And I believe he did, but like Dave said, it's so hard. When you're talking about the 5150 or the 8, I personally believe that the 5150 and the 84 were painted at the same exact time.
I agree. They were done. They were done so that they could be ready for the 1984 tour.
Yep.
That's why I'm wondering if basically, because George would say that I would just paint these bodies and then ship out, 5 or 6 of them, whatever at a time, to ship them out to him. So I'm wondering if the necks were shipped out there, and if Eddie assembled, the 1984 and or Rudy or somebody out in California, it's possible, I guess.
Right. We've also said, numerous times that, a lot of people, when Eddie was alive, he would say, all those Kramers that were out there were all fakes. They were never mine. Well, obviously they weren't necessarily ones he played on tour, but they were made for him. Right. And he says he built 3 of them. He always says, I built 3 of them. So, we know one of them is this one. We know the other is the 84. And the question is the third one the ad guitar? Because he built that. Or is it the Hot for Teacher? We don't know. So my guess is Eddie's was wrong on the number, because, obviously he built the ad guitar.
He didn't build the ad guitar, actually. It
was staged, but he might consider himself as having built it. That's where the unknown is, I think.
Right, but what I'm saying is he was there testing it out with the Explorer headstock and playing the guitar when they put it together before they painted the body. So again, the term "built" can be however you want to define it. But the question is, when he says he built 3 of them, I'm kind of thinking he's talking about, obviously the 84 and the 5150, and that third one we're just not really sure. But if we get into the painting piece, Hot for Teacher is definitely a different scheme than the 84 and the 5150. So if we're getting back to the 5150, who painted it? Was it George? Was it Zeke? Was it Rudy? We really don't know.
Zeke was way later.
Yeah.
Rob, could it be possible that Ed was talking about the Neptune guitar, because we've seen the photo shoot of him showing up, putting it together? Would that be something he considered him building?
I mean, again, there's another one, because the Neptune guitar, like we said, Paul told Dave and I the story. Paul had that thing all painted up.
Right, and that came in
at one time and sprayed it all black.
Right.
And Keith Campbell is in the chat, and he's saying, or the 918V. I mean, what do you think?
That was way later. That guitar
later. Those are all backups.
guys, while we're mentioning the chat, Tony, you want to say hello to everybody in the chat?
Yeah,
there?
let's go ahead and do a roll call. We're 20 some minutes Simon Hosford. How you doing, Simon?
Simon.
Tim Thomas.
Tim.
Sandra is in the
Sandra.
chat. Keith Campbell, there he is.
It's good to see you, brother.
Ed is here. Nightbot is here, up and working. Say hello if you're in the chat.
Adam Roach.
CHS Custom Guitars.
Craig Stofko.
Good to see you guys.
Bro.
Good to see you guys.
Janice Lala.
Janice.
Got a good crowd tonight.
Hubbard Vivo. Gretsch Zeppelin.
Hey, what's going on, you guys?
Scrolling on up. Holly Lewis. Hey, Holly.
Hey, Holly.
All right, still scrolling. Thomas Santiago, Bent Tom. And the 5150 show. Andrew.
Hey,
how
Andrew.
You doing, dude?
Good to see you, bro.
See you, man.
What's up, Andrew?
And Simon, May 19th.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
day?
baby.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, his new promo video is killer. It
Isn't
is
that
awesome.
badass? That's great.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. We'll do trivia later on, too. I think I'm going to stump you guys.
He's got a good one
It's a good
for
one.
you.
It's a good one.
Dan of New Jersey. We got Jerry Leica. Hey, Jerry. Adam Roach.
Michael McGuire.
Paulie Walnuts. Dan of New
Paulie,
Jersey.
I'm wearing your shirt, bud.
Papa Blue.
Good to see you, Papa.
Brendan B. Squared. Keith Campbell. We said Ed. Sandra. Thomas Santiago. Let's see who else we got in there. I think we got Samurai Daddy.
Hey, Samurai.
Welcome.
Let's see.
It's a who's who tonight in the chat.
Christopher Live Sawa.
Christopher, it's good to see you.
Dave, it's because you guys are so popular.
The cool kids.
Yeah, Dean Lowry. Hey, Dean. Holly Lewis.
Good to
Hey,
see
Holly. Let's see. I'm just gonna make sure we got everybody covered here. I'm sure we're missing somebody. Anyway.
Surprised Jimmy Ka's not in here. Jimmy said he was in
Robert Ranford.
We'll catch them as they come in. But while we're at it, a special thank you to Chris Locke and Donny Ward, Rob Johnson, and Dave Nesdall for being here tonight. Thank you, guys. Great to see you.
We got Hubbard Vivo.
That's Chris Hubbard.
That's Chris Hubbard.
He should be in here too.
Yeah,
Hubbard is actually. Yeah, we
Chris-
wanted to get Hub, but he's in the process of starting my new headstock. Because
What I tell you guys,
just
what I tell
arrived
you,
today.
Rob Johnson on the phone. Finish my guitar.
Yeah.
You can't come on tonight. You got
I
to
tried to get him. I tried.
Well, he does have the link, so if he wants to jump in, he can jump in at any time. I told him that when I sent him the link. So anytime you want, Chris, if you want to jump in.
One of the amazing painters out there, just amazing. And
Yeah.
the neck, the new Donny and Locke neck that showed up today. He's comparing it to another. He's comparing it to the neck that I have on here, and it's interesting. There's some really cool finds that he had. I'll just say it like that. Some really neat stuff. So these guys knocked it out of the park again on shape and just total geeking out over stuff.
Yeah.
So
I want to go into that a little bit too. That's probably a good point to do that. But just hey, anybody else in the chat? Robert, Michael McGuire. I also saw Stan is in there.
Donnie,
Tim
hold that up
Thomas,
as a close up again. Hold
Jeff
that up for us.
K,
Yeah.
Tim Thomas.
So
Robert
7
Ramsey,
tuner. I saw Rob was showing the picture of his earlier. I figured I'd get one out and actually show a real example.
Yeah.
So,
what are some of the things that you've discovered about it, Don, when you were coming up with this neck?
Well, you guys probably know that before we did these revisions, we had a 5150 neck, and people were saying that we nailed it. But what's so tough about this guitar is that pictures make it dance all around. I mean, different angles of this body, of the neck, of everything, it looks completely different. So you have to understand how to interpret photos, which we do every day when we're working in CAD. We're interpreting these photos and understanding what's a distortion, what's, how should it actually look. And you can only go so far. But what really helped us this time was that that you can see these sunken dowels, the paint, how it sinks around the dowels. You can see that the position of them in certain pictures of the original. And B, that we got all these vintage Pacers, and Chris, threw them on his table and probed them and basically got a 3D scan of these Pacer necks. So we were able to take that and import pictures of the real neck into, photo manipulation software and kind of line everything up, like the dowels, the nut, the way, right here where it comes up matches a beak neck exactly. So doing all these things and knowing what we know about, like I said, photo manipulation, CAD in general, we were able to come up with this, which I think finally nails it. And if you compare it to our old neck and some of the other necks, it has some noticeable differences in specific ways, like Rob was alluding to. But yeah, I mean, a lot of technicals to get here, and you wouldn't think so for something just kind of cobbled together, which is what it was.
Right. And so while we're talking about that, so apparently the neck is very similar to what was on the Ernie Ball, because they obviously copied that neck. And I mean, so the neck is the shape of the neck that everybody talks about. That was a result of them just sanding the neck. Was that Unkard probably sanding the neck when he built the neck?
Yeah, it's probably what it was. You sand the neck on a belt sander, and if there's no way to really get it perfectly if you're doing it by hand. So basically, it's nice and round on the bass side of the guitar, and then it's flatter on the treble side. So it's kind of like an earlobe. If you look at an ear, how it's big here, and then it gets kind of flat and long in the back, that's what the back of a neck looks like.
Right. So if you were to take a typical neck and, picture for yourself the way the neck sits in your hand, it's a nice symmetrical C shape. But if you were to just kind of sand more wood off the treble side and not the bass side, that's what you get. And therefore, as John, you mentioned, and I think David kind of alluded to as well, in his hand sanding, more wood came off one side than the other. And that may have been intentional, kind of like the way that Paul sanded the heel transition a bit more, or it may have been a complete accident, a happy accident, because what you get there, and as you guys know, this is a common neck profile now in the industry,
Right.
The asymmetric profile. What you get is a nice full feel where your hand right there wraps around, but then less wood to get in your way on this side as your fingers wrap around. So it's kind of
Absolutely.
the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Paul has said that Eddie never really asked for anything specific with the necks, and Paul made him basically for his own hand, which he said was a very similar size to Eddie's hand. And he said he never complained. He liked everything that I sent him. He never complained. So that makes sense.
The only thing he did complain about was one guitar. It had a blue headstock on it. Eddie hated it.
Yeah. The heavy metal is that your heavy metal guitar?
Yeah. Said, what is the deal with this? What am I going to do with this?
And it's funny because Dennis apparently looked at it and was like, "Oh, maybe Eddie will like it." And the story goes, Eddie did not like it. Eddie he also had another preference. He wanted the guitars striped. He wanted red guitars with white stripes and only a few black stripes.
Yes,
that was his thing. Only a few. And they made a couple that had too many black stripes and he didn't like them, and he just tossed them. But that was his thing, a red guitar with white stripes and just a few black stripes. So they were not allowed to go overboard with the black. And the interesting piece, we'll just get into a little bit of the painting process. And this is something that I didn't know until, I don't know, maybe a few years back, is they would tape off obviously they would spray the guitar white. The classic color for a 5150 is Duplicolor Wimbledon white. That's what Hubbard uses, and I think it's also what Nick uses. It seems to have the best aging look to it. And then they would tape it off with half-inch. Gosh, help me out here, guys. I know it's
tape or something.
Yeah, with basic masking tape.
Half-inch, 4-inch, and 16-inch.
And it was actually a sunset orange paint. And this is a can of the actual paint that they would use. This is a real can of sunset orange paint.
But I thought that they used the GM colors. That's what everybody says. WA7753. That Kramer was using the 82 paint colors from and Eddie used the Schwinn on the Frankie, but I thought Kramer was painting with the GM colors at that point.
Well, Hubbard can jump in. He's in the chat, but I got this can from Hubbard, and this is what he's.
I mean, that is definitely a similar color. It
Well,
definitely is.
Basically, what they used whatever paint they had.
Right.
So when the 84 guitar and the 5150 was painted, that's what they had.
Right.
They had that sunset orange in a rattle can, but they used whatever red they had. So a lot of guitars are different color reds. If you look at all the Kramers that you've ever seen in hard rock cafes or all the backup guitars, they're actually a darker red.
Yeah.
And some of them are either lighter red, some of them are pinkish. They're all different.
Now, the interesting thing, what Dave just said, is the Neptune is actually sunset orange too. They just happen to use that on the Neptune. And I know that because I've seen the Neptune a handful of times in real life. And it's the same color as the 84 and the 5150. But when they would get done with the funny thing is the black stripes were done literally within about 10 minutes. And they didn't use tape. And it took me forever to figure out how they did this. And then I remember Paul was telling me one time, the reason there's all this overspray and everything on these guitars is because what they would do, and I know most of you guys on the show know this, when they got the white stripes done, they would take a piece of cardboard or manila envelopes and just lay them down and just spray it. So the reason you had overspray was because there was nothing sticking it down. They just laid it down real quick, sprayed it. That's why the line down here is in two different spots down here, and it cuts off and goes down at a different slant. That's why you have all this overspray. And on the sides, what they would do is they would lay the manila envelopes down, do the black stripe, but they never, when it would overlap and lay off the guitar, the reason you had all this overspray is because there was nothing down on the side, so it would just fog it like that. So they just laid manila envelopes on and just sprayed it quick, pulled them off. Black stripes were done. It was literally done in a couple of minutes. The black stripes.
I have a picture somewhere from like George had it. You can see in where they were painting this stuff, and like hanging on the back is a manila folder. Yeah. And where the spine of the folder was, it was folded. It was cut out. So when it opened up, it was that. And I guess they would just, like Rob said, lay it down there, just hit it, and then pull it off. And
just pull it off. Yeah.
And
that's what took me so many years to figure out, how the hell do you replicate that and what was happening. So I would use masking tape, and I would lift the tape in certain areas, and you can still do that, and then you get that fogging overspray area in that certain area. Mm-hmm. But that's literally how it was. So if the manila envelope was wet or it had like a bow in it, it would overspray, and it would certainly overspray on the sides and everything. That's why the 84 has all that massive overspray on it. But it was almost like an awakening when I heard that from Paul. I was like, whoa, that makes perfect sense. But again, when you're making these guitars and you're doing grains and you're doing overspray, it's so hard to recreate something without making it look too labored. If you work it too hard, it looks too labored and it looks too much. And that's why, guys like Neil and Chris and Nick and those guys that are doing the stuff. I mean, I passed the torch long ago. I'll still paint guitars. When it comes to like a 5150 or something like that, I'm letting you guys do it because they got that shit dialed in. They really do. But that's how they did it. It was that stupid. And Eddie always wanted it worn here. He wanted it worn here and in different areas here. And Paul would actually take sheetrock screws and actually just throw them at the guitar to dent it up and sand it with sandpaper and drag them around. He actually said that.
He said he would take the guitar outside and just throw it on a curb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
if Chris Hubbard wants to jump in, there's room down here now. He tried earlier, and there was, but there's room now if you want to hop in, Chris.
I'll shoot him a message real quick.
Yeah, there's room now.
So guys, while we're working our way down the body here, we're just talking about the origins of the guitar. Let's talk about. Let's go back up a little bit. So we know that the tuners were Godos on it, right? Originally, they still are obviously the same ones. So This is just for people that are, want to build one of these guitars. Right, there you go. So those should be the Godo or the SG 360s, I believe. So if anybody's looking, and obviously you change it, you got the most current with the shallow on there, right, Rob?
Right. So what happens, the story goes, and I don't remember where I heard this, but the story goes in 1990, Ed was mad and he threw the guitar at Alex. And the guitar had been thrown many times before. You saw the video I posted.
Yeah, that's great.
So the headstock broke exactly where where it was joined when it was doweled. So what basically Ed did was, or actually Music Man, I believe, repaired it. But what they did was they took that seventh tuner and they moved it down here. It was the Gatto, and then Ed just had somebody had a Schaller double tap playing around, so they just stuck it there for looks to fill up the hole, and it wasn't doing anything. So they're the Gatto's original 6, and then you have a Schaller double tab, and originally it had a prototype nut, a vintage prototype nut, which this one is. The real one doesn't have those clamps on it anymore.
Right. So those are kind of like they're beveled, right? And they circular kind of up on them, the humps on them kind of.
They got a hump on it, and the bottom here is actually more squared.
And what about the nut itself? Is the shape of it, or is it like still cut into the V on that one?
No, it's not. It's the nut itself. They're more square.
Mm-hmm.
They're more square. Where the strings go in, they're more square, and the nut itself is smaller than a modern day one.
So that's
smaller, and it's not as tall.
Okay, it's not as tall. So that's an R2 nut, I guess, on there, right? Correct.
R2.
All right.
It's what we would commonly call R2 today, but when you get into the weeds with Floyd stuff, and Darren, who's watching this, can attest to this, every manufacturer of the nuts, from Floyd himself in his garage, then to Fernandez in Japan and those factories, and then Hansen, who made those trims, they kind of were all over the place on their spec. But yes, if you wanted to put a modern nut on the 5150, you would pick R2.
Right.
Gotcha. So this is, if anybody wants to build one of these guitars and they look at this, so basically they're the Godo SG 360s on there, and the new ones you get now have the logo on the back.
Yeah, the original
kind of sucks, which nobody
Godo.
wants. I remember seeing a YouTube video about how you could pop them off and turn them around backwards, where and pop them back in, and you won't have that on there. I know you can look for that on YouTube. It was there. I looked for it before, I couldn't find it, but I guess if you don't want, written on there, the logo written on the back of them, you could do that. So Rob, you can hold the guitar up again there. So also on there, you got the string tree. Now those are like kind of hard to find.
Well, first off, the retainer is hard to find too, and this is really geeking out. They're flat on the edges. They're flat. They're not rounded. And it's round all the way around. It's not squared on one end. And Eddie always had his on upside down. This is an original Kramer. It took me forever to find it. And like I said, this is not something that most people that are making these things geek out over. But it is something that's really hard to find, flat ones, and it's a little bit shorter. Now the string tree right here is also these were custom made. Hubbard had these custom made because they're so fucking damn hard to find. They're actually, they think, Dave, weren't they? Didn't somebody say one time they were Fender?
No, they're Charvel. They're Charvel from like 1980.
Okay. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's real fat and
Tony, can you throw that up there, Tony, for a second?
There you go. Yep. Very hard to find.
Yeah, they're hard to find. So, but if anybody's out there looking for them, there is a place that makes them. It's called the Cyber Shop, and it's rscustommachine.com. You can get them there for like $20.
Nice.
So I found that place. So if anybody's looking for them, they can go to that place. Here's so this is what we were talking about, Dave. You were saying that the slots are more square. They're not really a V shape, correct?
Right.
So there's one right there. This one I found on Reverb. It was sold for about $85. But if anybody looks,
that's a Fernandez. That's a Fernandez nut, which is a great nut. They're fantastic.
Yep.
Okay.
They say 4508 on the back. They're
And
stamped.
here's the back, Rob. Is that what you're saying? Under there, I see something. Yep, 4508.
Yep.
There you go, Rob. You know your stuff, buddy.
Those are the Fernandez versions, and they're basically exactly the same.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to see some really good stuff and geek out on the Floyd Rose stuff, Darren is in this video. He puts videos up on YouTube. Also, Michael McGuire.
Mike's in the chat. Yeah.
Those two guys, I'm telling you, if you guys want to watch some of their videos on YouTube and you want to learn a lot of stuff about Floyd Roses on every single model, watch those videos. I mean, I'm telling you, I thought I knew a lot about Floyd Rose. I realized about a year ago I didn't know jack shit.
Yeah, so you guys, Darren and Mike, if you just want to put it in the chat, so if any of us want to go look at it, that'd be great. Appreciate that. So I also want to say, first of all, the necks, if people are building these guitars, they want the necks. You got Locke custom guitars for the necks and the bodies for the the Pacers special type of bodies. That's the place you want to go take a look for those. And I already said the Cyber Shop, you can get some of these parts. And we know that Dive Bomb, we spoke to him. He's got the bars if you want to just adapt it. And even the MXR knob.
That's incorrect. That knob is incorrect, by the way.
That's an incorrect one? Okay. So, Dave, you want to tell what's the correct one for that then?
It's not an MXR knob. It's actually a jazz-based knob.
Okay.
It's bigger than that.
It's bigger. Okay. So but it has a little screw thing in it?
Yes.
And I guess that's because the potentiometer wasn't really a split shaft, right, on it?
Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't.
There's the potentiometer right there. That's a Burns, whatever. Burns. So it's if anybody's looking for that, it's I'm trying to find. You could see it in that picture right there in the back of the guitar. You can see the blue in there.
And to tell you the truth, there is not a Bourne's pot in the 5150 guitar in the original.
No, it's not. What's in there now? Was there ever?
No, it's a 25K pot.
25K or 250?
25K.
25.
It's also the same pot that's in the Frankenstein. 25K.
Really?
I can't tell you where I learned that from, but I know it is a fact.
All right,
it's got to be pretty dark.
What does that do, David? What is the significance of that?
I can't tell you. I don't know. All I know is it's a 25K.
What it does is the higher the rating, the brighter the tone, the more highs can come through. So typically you'll use a 500K pot with humbuckers to kind of swing down a bit.
Yes.
Or to kind of bring out the highs.
Which makes sense. It all makes sense because when Eddie was using his Marshall, you know that there's two channels and the treble side of that amp is really bright. And I don't believe he jumped the channels. Also, if you look at any one of his 5150 amps, he's got the bass. He doesn't have the bass cranked, but he's got the trebles and the mids. Well, the mids are down, but he's got the trebles cranked. He's got them up at around 7 or 8. So he's running a lot of treble in his amps. So it makes sense that he's got a 25K pot in his guitars.
That's so interesting to me.
I mean, those two guitars. Now, all the new guitars, they're all Bournes. All the EVH guitars, that's all Bournes. But those two guitars are probably CTS 25K pots.
Okay, so while we're still on the hardware and stuff on the guitar, I mean, I'm not gonna, the wood we everybody's always discussed. Is it basswood? Is it swamp ash? Is it poplar? I mean, we don't know. I mean, it's like, whatever. Make it with whatever you want to. And the same with the pickup. A lot of people say it's a custom. A lot of people think it's a JB. A lot of people think it's something else. But there's pickups out there. We just don't know that kind of stuff like that.
Hey, John, let me ask him one question. Of the four of you guys right now, what is the number one difference other than weight that you notice from a different wood being used in that type of guitar? Do you notice any kind of a sustain or any kind of a darker tone, a lighter tone?
Well,
Chris, what about like Chris Basswood and Swamp Ash and Poplar, and what are the tonal differences then, or do you think it's the pickup is really the key?
Yeah, I vote pickup and amp, not wood.
Okay.
Yeah, you and I had a conversation about that.
And speaker.
You could put an EMG on a snow shovel, and it's going to sound probably the same as it does on a guitar, right? I mean, an active pickup like that. But anyway, yeah. Okay. So I think I agree with Chris. I think that's a huge part of it. You know what I mean? That it's a lot of the amp and a lot of the pickup, really, a lot of it. But Swamp Ash and Basswood are lighter woods, right? They're both on the lighter side.
Yep.
And they say that the 5150 is a light. I know I've talked to, I'm not going to throw their names out, but two people that have played the guitar and have seen it numerous times say that the 5150 is a very light guitar.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So getting now to the Floyd, that was an FRT5. Was that what it was on there? That's what is on there, I should say.
Still on it.
This is an original Hanson Metalworks. People used to think they were made by APM, American Precision Metals. They were not. They were made by Hanson Metalworks. And this is one I got from my good buddy Jerry Leica. This is an original.
Wow. Okay, so explain to everybody what a whale tail FRT5 is and what is different about it than any Floyd that was in the 80s on Kramer's.
All right. So on the whale tails, you actually have the fine tuners are actually the threads on them are much smaller. So they will not fit on a standard German Floyd.
They're also
saddles are smaller. They're shorter, actually. They're more boxy.
More square.
Yeah, square. And you'll also notice these areas here where the screw goes in. See how they're circular? They're oval.
Right.
Whereas they're squared off on a German Floyd. They also have, and Dave will pick up some other stuff that I'm missing too, but the bar has basically just an 11 millimeter nut right here. It's totally old school with a nylon washer on both sides. You'll notice there's none of those springs or finger tensioners or anything like that. They didn't use that. You just have a solid, you can hear it, you have a solid piece of steel hitting the wood, which
Rob, underneath those screws, those little tensioner things, they're non-existent on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
I got you.
I take them off every single Floyd I have because I think they're useless, tone-robbing pieces of garbage. And every single time I take them off a Floyd, I get better sustain. That's just my personal preference. And I know Adam Reaver even said that one time. He's the one that told me about it. Sometimes you can't do that because depending on how your Floyd is set up, you need those there to give you more space because then your bridge will be too low. But I find a way to usually take them off most everything.
I got you.
You also have this big, huge, fat steel block.
That's the thing. So there was never any brass on that guitar ever. That's a steel block from day one, right?
Correct.
And I know there's a few places that are doing the steel block. Feline and Dive Bomb do steel blocks, I think. I don't know. Is that a 42 millimeter, that one?
I think
probably 37.
It's probably 37.
Probably
37. It's 42.
No, it's 42. I got two of the replicas.
Would you like to compare and contrast? I got two of them here.
There you go.
And the FRT5.
Tony, you want to zoom in on that? There you go.
Nice.
So there's some differences between the 80 Schaller and then obviously the FRT5. I guess one thing would be the saddles. They got these like little T blocks in it.
Yes, that's another thing too.
Versus the 80 Schaller, and they're solid.
Okay.
Another difference obviously is the big steel sustain block versus this chrome plated brass nonsense. The base plates themselves, you can see they're pretty squared off.
They're larger.
They look larger.
Yeah, I mean it's physically larger. I mean,
yeah, they're bigger. The Floyd Rose logo is offset.
But yeah, I mean it's a bit different.
So on the history of that just if I can take over, because Darren, who's the Floyd expert, and we talk quite a bit. And he's kind of, in addition to his videos, talking to him directly, and some other people I've talked to have kind of let me in on the whole evolution. It's very intriguing. When Ed was, we talked about this earlier, but when Ed was getting in with Kramer, the Rockinger was the thing. But Ed wasn't about the Rockinger. He didn't like it. He wanted Floyd to add fine tuners to his trim. He had been bugging Floyd to do that forever. And I think a big reason why Ed ended up with Kramer is because they had a double locking fine tuning trim. So fast forward a bit, he finally convinces Floyd, who had been in the hospital after a motorcycle accident or something like that, to make him a fine tuning prototype, which was the gold FRT4 prototype that was on the Frankenstrat. So he didn't like where if you guys are familiar with the FRT4, I don't have one because they're exceedingly rare, but instead of the fine tuners coming up and back, the plate just went straight up and it was right where your hand would be. Ed didn't like that. He told Floyd, you got to fix it. You got to move those fine tuners back. So before the whole whale tail thing came up, the batch of whale tails, we actually see two, what we would call predecessors to the FRT5 on Ed's guitars exclusively. And what we think happened is Floyd was getting parts, Japanese parts from Fernandez at this point, mass produced. But we think that Floyd made custom base plates that were longer and allowed him to bend, as you guys know from looking at the Floyd Rose, there's that bend in it. And that's why we call it the whale tail, because it bends up. So we think Floyd just took a custom base plate and bent it up so that he could move the fine tuners back like Ed asked. So he does that. It works. Ed uses it on the Rasta guitar. Then he puts one on the Frankenstrat, and he puts the one that was originally on the Rasta on the Ag guitar when that's built. He, at the same time when he builds the Ag guitar, basically maybe within a week of that, signs with Kramer and says, okay, I'm going to endorse Kramer guitars. But I'm assuming a stipulation was that they have to have this new Floyd Rose design with the fine tuners in the back, just like he likes them. So Floyd starts working out with Kramer how they're going to produce units for Kramer guitars exclusively. So Floyd enters the picture as someone in the whole partnership as well. They wanted Schaller to produce the trims because Schaller made their tuners. Schaller made all sorts of stuff for them. Well, it's taking way too long to tool up. They need the stipulations of the deal means they need to get guitars out the door with Floyd Rose trims on. And that's where Floyd Rose, who knew Randy Hansen of Hansen Metalworks from working together in Seattle, he calls up Randy Hansen and says, I need 800 trims or whatever it was, however many were made. And Randy does a rush order, and that's why the FRT5 is so different than the Schaller, because Schaller is tooling up to produce the trim, mass produce them for Kramer. At the same time, Hansen's doing this rush order based on some prototypes he has, and the differences are evident in how those two people tooled up. Interestingly, and I recently learned this because Lynn Ellsworth, who built lots of Ed's necks and boogie bodies, he made boogie bodies, and he made basically all of Ed's stuff prior to Kramer. I talked to him on the phone a couple times because I built some ebony necks, and based on his stuff that he had done, and he liked them and called me up. He told me that a guy named Hansen, who was I think he said NASA or Boeing, he was a machinist for one of those big firms you would be machining for back then. He used to make Lynn's truss rods, and Lynn and Floyd knew each other because they were both from Seattle. So I think this Randy guy was kind of in the background, like he was the go-to machinist for all these people that were involved with Ed. But anyway, that's kind of the evolution of how we got from Ed being interested in the Rockinger to getting Floyd to make prototypes with fine tuners, to getting them bent back, and then to the FRT5, and then finally the Schaller trims.
That's a good point.
Awesome. Good
Another
stuff.
thing too on the whale tails, the bars are longer and they're straighter.
Yep.
There's not as much of an arc to them. They're definitely longer and they're straighter. And just a couple other little things. And they also use, it's hard to tell, but the actual posts, these posts here, they're prototype posts, and they actually have a thicker hat on the top. The dome is actually thicker. And that's just something else that they did for a very, very, very short period of time. And I'm pretty sure, Donny, that Randy Hansen was doing those posts as well, wasn't he?
I'm not sure. I think so because they're unique, and I need to correct that because Darren just popped in. I had Randy Hansen. It's actually Mike Hansen. Randy
Hansen's the guitar player.
Well, what's interesting about that?
I thought he was a WWE wrestler.
Well, what's funny about that is Randy Hansen, the guitar player, is who basically started the Floyd, because Floyd Rose was Randy Hanson's sound man, and Floyd Rose developed the trim because Randy Hanson was a Jimi Hendrix guy. But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Hey, Mike, Donny was just testing you. Donny was just testing you, Mike. He just wanted to see if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Hey,
Darren and Mike are ripping their hair out.
Yeah, so let me ask you guys a question. So everybody in the chat, you're going to see the Guitar Historical Archives. Is that Darren and Mike? Is that Darren?
That's Darren, yeah.
That's Darren. Okay, so guys, check that stuff out in the chat right there. And thanks, Darren, for doing all this stuff.
Very cool
information in there. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very. So now you on the flip the guitar over the back there. Anything special about the springs on there or the claw?
Well, so Dave and I were actually talking about this pretty recently. These 3 black springs were put on sometime
Recently.
in the 90s, late 90s, whatever. Eddie always used 2 springs.
I have it on
Right.
my guitar.
Yeah, Dave's got his set up kind of a combination of the present day and the the 88 version. What Dave's guitar looks like right there is what it looked like right up until pretty recently. Eddie put 3 black springs on. I don't know if they're futon springs or what. They're probably just basic ones.
He had them on there since when the Charvel was connected.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to note that over the years, Eddie replaced, and I did not do that on mine because I want to keep, that's one thing that my guitar is not accurate. This is an original Hanson Metalworks Whaletail FRT5, but Eddie replaced 4. Well, first off, he replaced 2 saddles with German saddles, and then
did they crack? Is that why? Did they
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, as far as we know, 4 of the 6 saddles have been replaced.
And they're with the newer Schaller, like you're saying.
The newer Schallers, yep.
And they'll work, and they work fine with a couple of the originals that are still on there, right?
Yep. They will.
Size wise, they fit in there fine.
They do, but you from what the way the whale tail, the actual edge of the base is, from what we understand, a D-tuna would not work on an original whale tail.
Really?
They don't sit just right. Because of the way it's arced. I have not tried it, but I've actually heard that. And so one other interesting note, Eddie loved these original bars. He loved the FRT5 bars. And the original Frankenstrat right now, and it did have it at the Met, has an original whaletail bar on it. And you can tell because the stem is real. I don't know if you can
long, right?
The real long stems.
Right.
Real long stems. And the Frankie even has that original 11 millimeter nut on it right now.
Yeah, that's how Floyd bars were done from the first prototype in late 78 or early 79 all the way up until Schaller. I mean, really, Schaller, what Schaller produced for this Kramer deal all around the time we're talking about with this guitar and then later into the Kramer years hasn't really changed to this day. They kind of, the way they tooled up their trim in 1984, 85, when they replaced this whaletail thing that was the one-off job, the Floyd Rose, the OFR as we know it, is pretty much unchanged since.
Right.
Well, the arm and arm assembly is, and I don't like the newer ones that screw in, with the collar.
Right.
I'll tell you why. They're 9 degrees taller than the old style. And it's hard to pick the strings and hold on to the bar because they're higher.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I don't particularly care for them.
So, but and the claw on the back, there's nothing different. Is that brass? Is it just a regular?
Just a regular steel claw.
Regular one.
Regular steel.
Pot metal, probably pot metal. Who knows?
Yeah, and so every once in a while, I guess these whale tails pop up on Reverb or something, right? Rarely. I wonder how many they made of these things. Any idea?
They said 200 years ago, and then Darren and Mike and I were talking, and Donny, actually Dave and a whole bunch of us were. They're thinking now the number might be closer to 800.
Wow, but still, that's nothing. 800 is. I mean, those are very rare, and even at 800, it's like that's.
And they're over $2,000 if you want to buy one.
Yeah,
even incomplete, missing parts, they're going over $2,000. It's crazy.
Wow, that's a holy grail find right there.
And they're not even. A couple years ago, you could find them once in a while. 6-8 months ago, a year ago, you could find them once in a while. Now it's hard to even find them on Reverb now.
Rob, you remember the black and white Frankie that had one on it for $900?
Yeah, I know.
That I didn't want, and you just passed on it.
I dragged my feet. It's funny, Jerry and we talk. I remember. It's so funny. Every once in a blue moon, you'll find some dude selling a Kramer, you know. And I always look at the bridge. I'm like, oh, okay, no. Every once in a while, you'll see some guy selling a Kramer for like $800-900, and it'll have an original FRT 5 on it. Right. You know, the guy has no idea what it was. But I remember, I get this question a lot. People ask me, "Hey, my bridge sits slanted back. You know, it slants back. What's wrong with it?" I'm like, nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. Let it sit slanted back. It's fine. I just like them like that. It's just me. But if you look at how a whale tail bridge sits, can you see how
it's slightly back?
Yeah.
That's because it doesn't have any springs on it. But people seem to think that's not a good thing. But I remember back in 1999 or 2000, I went to a used guitar shop, and there's a Kramer Pacer sitting on the wall, and I picked it up. I'm like, oh, cool, you know, Kramer. And I remember looking at the bridge, and I had no idea what a whale tail was. I'm like, look at this Floyd. This can't be real. The thing's sitting back. I'm like, this thing looks like it's, you know, somebody. It just looked different. It was an original FRT 5.
Oh my gosh.
The whole guitar was like $250, and I couldn't buy it. And I'm like, wow. Oh gosh, you know.
By the way,
I joke about that.
Thank you for the love, Edwin. Appreciate it.
The thing that a little disappointing, the Kramer that I showed earlier, the one that's the last one on the wall there, it originally had an FRT 5 on it, and the previous owner stole it, but left the prototype poster on it. So
oh really? That's cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, that sucks. So
his FRT 5 is useless because you can't use the new post with that bridge.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm probably going to take my spare and throw it on there to make it whole again.
Absolutely.
Wow. So as far as that too, like, so on the real 5150, it's cracked right between the posts and the pickup route, correct?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but yeah, it's got a crack.
It's like a stress crack.
I'm willing to bet that it's been fixed. I'm willing to bet that what the hell is his name?
Tom Anderson?
No. From EVH. Built all Eddie's new guitars. Chip Ellis. Yep. I'm willing to bet that Chip Ellis fixed that.
But you know what's funny? I have about 7 or 8, well, I've had probably 7 or 8 guitars over the years. My blue headstock Frankie, it's a real Kramer Pacer. Both Floyd posts are cracked in the exact same spot. You put a little Gorilla Glue on the inside, they're fine. They don't move. So, you know, like Dave said, I'm sure Chip went ahead and did what he needed to, but I've had a bunch of them that actually had that, because I mean, when you have those old style wood screws and you don't have the bushings like the newer ones, and you're abusing the hell out of those bars, you know, that wood is gonna, as it ages, it's gonna crack, it's gonna split. But I've never had problems. I just put a little Gorilla Glue on my finger and then down in the cavity, and it seems to, I mean, it's always worked for me. But it's funny because I have pictures. It would take me for a few minutes to pull them up, but of the real Neptune guitar when I was out in LA back in the last NAMM show. And I got real good video of that. And I think Chris and Donny, I know Dave, I've sent those pictures too. You can tell both posts, total split. Like the wood's actually pushing out, you know, when it comes into the pickup cavity. It's so funny. And that's an exact reason why they don't make them with wood screws anymore.
Well, and you know,
he actually played that guitar.
He had it at the 82 NAMM show, right, Dave?
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
The Neptune guitar. There's pictures of Ed at the.
It was a giveaway. It was just a giveaway. That's all. He never played the guitar. It was a photo op, and it was a giveaway at the 83 NAMM show, I believe.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it was 83. Yeah. And there's pictures of him playing it. You know, obviously there's pictures of him doing the photo shoot when they were spray painting it.
But it was never playable. It's not a playable guitar.
But
when the action was always super high. It was not playable. And I'll tell you why I know this, because Steve Brown from Trickster owned that guitar for a little while. And he told me that it was not a playable guitar. And he gave it to his manager, and from there it went to the Hard Rock.
Scott actually had that guitar for a while too. He actually had it in his possession and said the same thing. It wasn't playable.
So it was never given away. It was a giveaway guitar, but it was never really given away, right? That other
Yeah,
kid.
I believe it was given away. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, because there was that one kid, remember Michael Gutierrez, and
That's 85.
That's
That's a
85.
different
Okay,
guitar.
that's a different one. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that's a different one. Yep.
All right. So the next thing would be the eye hooks on it. So they were originally like number 10s that were originally on it. Rob, you have those on yours, don't you?
Yeah, these are actually they're not 10s, they're 8s. They're number 8s.
Eights, okay.
I think that's what's on the guitar nowadays.
Right.
I think when the guitar was new, it had even smaller ones than that.
Yeah.
10s, yeah.
Maybe I had 10s back then, right, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. I think they were 10s because the 84, you can clearly see, and the Hot for Teacher, they were even smaller. And Hubbard and I were talking about that. We pretty much figured they were 10s. And I know, Eddie's gone back and forth. I mean, the Stealth guitar, the Tour Relic, those are actually number 6s, like what Dave and I used to use on all our guitars. And then we realized, hey, these aren't number 6s that were on the Music Mans with the washers and the weld and, the little weld pieces. Those were actually they were 8s. But we're thinking, like Dave said, number 10s are what was back in those days.
So were they welded, the ones on the 5150, or were they just the washers screwed in there? They were welded.
They're welded.
We're thinking so, yeah, because it had some little set screw.
And they were dipped in that stuff, right? That
not back in the 80s. They weren't.
That was just recent.
That was more recently.
But the earliest welded eye hook I've seen, and this blew my mind, is the Mini Les Paul in 82 or 84. I think it was 82. You can see it has the little number 10s with a welded washer. And I thought those came much later, by like the Music Man era that he was starting to do the weld thing. But apparently they were doing that pretty early on.
Wow.
Yeah, they were doing that. Like Donny said, here's the one Donny did for me.
That's awesome. That guitar.
Donny, this is all like glossy. How is it so glossy? I'm kidding.
Looks a lot better than mine.
I'm joking.
Wow,
I got the welded ones on mine. But yeah, Eddie was doing that back in those days. Yeah.
That's a beautiful guitar, Rob.
It came out so nice, man, and it played so nice too.
Thank you to CHS Guitar,
Greg.
for the finish on it. Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Just send me my back cover plates, dude, please.
That shows you guys a little bit how
He's doing the back cover plates for me. Yeah, he's doing that. It's got the little speaker in the back. You can tell it's exactly like Eddie's. But Craig was redoing the cover plates for me too, so they're perfect. So, but yeah,
I can imagine the look on your face when you open the case at home and like, what the fuck? Where are my plates?
No. I picked up the place. I knew all about it. I'm just giving him crap. I hope he watched.
This is what it should look like.
That's what
it should look like. Well, except for that one, but yeah. This is the first one I built. And then Rob, I didn't want to build another one because they're such a pain in the ass, as you saw from all the electronics. But Rob's like, I got to have one, man. So I did one.
Yeah, well, I got news for you. My wife wants one.
I know. We talked about that. But I can work that out. We can work that out, David.
Is Petrolat actually going to make them or not? And they're going to be like $5,000 or whatever? I mean,
he is now that Donny's making them.
Well, yeah, he did. I mean, when I put out my pictures of my prototype, and then later on when Rob got his, in between the two, he started making posts like, join my newsletter for when I'm going to release the replica, and he was posting pictures of the lumber he was getting and the CNC.
I'll be
stuff.
right back.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, he might not end up doing it. I kind of backed off because I figured if he's going to do them, because I don't really want to do them, they're just such a pain. Let him do them. The novelty factor there is just so much cooler, and and I appreciate him not giving me shit for having done 2 of them. But anyway,
yeah.
Well, does he have a patent on a small guitar?
No, but all that stuff.
Okay. Listen, I'm all for the respect for the guy. I mean, he made the original ones.
Yeah.
But Fender isn't giving anyone shit for making a Stratocaster.
Well, they'll try if you use their.
But they don't. They don't.
Not to mention, don't feel like taking out a mortgage to buy one either. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it was pretty amazing when you think the guy was making those back in like 1980, 81.
Yeah.
And but Donny, you said that it was basically, you know, like how did he do it? And then you figured out that he basically just cut off the first 4 frets of the.
He told me that. He told me that because I was trying to draw them up, and you know, eventually I'm going to build one, and I was drawing them up in CAD, and I couldn't figure out the scale length. I actually made 2 prototypes before mine, but they weren't even playable because they were too small or too big. So I asked him, I'm like, what was the scale length on this thing? He said, you know what? I can't answer that question, but I can help you copy it. He said, I just took a Gibson scale length fretboard that I cut, and I just removed the first 4 frets, and that was my nut. And I thought that's so genius. That makes it a 18-inch scale. Now that's such a practical solution to a difficult problem.
It's amazing. I mean, for back then, it was kind of primitive way that he did it, but it worked obviously. And but now the red one Eddie didn't like, but the scale looks different on the red one, isn't it?
I haven't looked too far.
Thicker body. It's a thicker body. I don't know.
Thicker body. Yeah, I know he didn't like that one as much as the Sunburst.
Well, so he had the Sunburst made and he was using it, but then he asked David to make another one to his spec, thicker for better tone. Well, he got that one and went right back to the Sunburst one, so it must not have panned out.
He played in the '84 tour a little bit. You can see
at the beginning.
Yeah.
You have a red one, don't you, Rob?
I did, but I got rid of that one in order to get Donnie's.
I got you.
Yeah, I have to say at EVH Con, Rob had that. That was to me was the highlight of the whole EVH Con. Was that thing was so cool, man.
It was pretty cool. Joe Suma didn't want to put it down. Have you seen that in my Dragon Snake? But
that both of those, right? Exactly. The Dragon Snake that was amazing. That was
John.
amazing.
I want to mention something back. You know, jumping back on the 5150 guitar. We're just getting into the pickup for a second. No. I just wanted to mention this. The pickup, obviously mine. This is a PV Wolfgang pickup. In 1996, we believe 95, 96. Eddie replaced the pup in his, which, was it a Duncan 59? Was it a JB? I've always kind of thought JB, and I'll let Dave and some other folks run with that one. But it's pretty common knowledge that Eddie put a PV Wolfgang bridge pickup in the 5150, and that was in there for a very, very long time, many, many years. So that's what I threw in mine.
Right.
And the volume, the input jack was not a plated one like this.
No, it was a barrel jack.
Barrel jack.
Originally, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and this was also changed sometime around the 2004 tour.
What I think is real funny is that he put a real cheap one on. That's like a Chinese. I have the same one on my guitar. It's like a Chinese knockoff plate. It's terrible.
And one other thing a lot of folks don't realize, and I didn't know this until a few years ago, and Dave and I did the mods to ours. There's actually a hole with a piece of electrical tape in the cavity. We're not 100% sure when that was put in, but we think it was sometime in the mid 90s, early 2000s. The story goes that Eddie had a tone knob back there and he was using it for a treble bleed, and he put it in the back because he didn't want to. I mean, I don't know why he would care about drilling any more holes in the but
he wanted to keep it secret.
It's not the first time. It's not the first time that Eddie put a tone pot in that cavity.
Right.
A guitar.
Yeah, look at the Bumblebee. But that's what that is. Believe it or not, the 5150 has a hole in the back, and that's something that a lot of folks that are building these don't know, with a piece of electrical tape, because he took it out. But he had it in the back, and he would just turn the tone knob a little bit, messing around with it, and he chose not to stay with it. So just a couple other little fun facts on the 5150. This here is a leftover residue from some gaffer's tape. Eddie had that there, so he could see where to plug in. Obviously MXR knob,
Actually, not Dave said. What did you say? It was a
jazz bass
or something?
Yeah.
Rob, you know what's really funny about the gaffer, the electrical tape by the input jack? I think it's funny that I add the electrical tape onto the guitars that I do. Yeah. And when I send them, a couple of people have been like, "Oh, I think you missed a stripe." And I'm like,
It's
no,
crazy.
no, didn't miss it. No, it's supposed to be there.
Neil's like, you damn noobs, get out of here.
Well,
Funny,
I
if you really want
I
to get
just
accurate, do gaffer's tape, not it was actually gaffer's tape.
Yeah.
see, I didn't know that.
Because if you tear gaffer's tape, it actually tears jagged.
Right,
yeah.
You can tell that from the Frank. Yeah. Good point.
And I
But
guess
that's something for you. That's all. And I love the ones you do, Neil. They're freaking so cool. I love it when you have like 5 of them next to each other. Like, oh, look at that. That's so freaking cool.
No, I don't. For anybody out there that builds them, the one thing that's funny is every single one of them is like every one that I build is my favorite. You know what I mean? It's like they're all. That's my favorite. That's the best one I've done. And then as soon as you let it go, you're like, oh man, it's so hard to put in the mail. And then the next one I build, oh my god, this is my favorite.
So I want to ask all you guys this. So what gives with, it appears that the 5150, I first saw this guitar in the very early part of the 84 tour. But it appears that with the actual road wear that it's got, it didn't age nicely compared to other guitars of Eddie's. What gives there? Is it the paint or the wood or combination or what?
The fact that is the only guitar that Eddie used from 1984 till 1990. Anywhere he went, that's the guitar that went with him. Any appearance that you see him with is that guitar. He used that for everything. Yeah. It's like it's almost like he owned one guitar, and that's the way it is with whatever guitar he's using. He uses one. He takes a few guitars with him, but uses one guitar. You know, if he would be alive today, probably he'd still be using the Tour Relic. You know,
I think there's some manufactured wear on it. I really do think there's some on there, though. I don't think I think.
But no, if you look at
the living room, scraping it away at, like with a screwdriver digging. I think there's a little bit of that going on there too on the back.
I will say, John, though, to counter that, have you ever seen Philip Sace's Strat that he calls Mother?
No, I haven't.
Within about 3 years, almost all the paint on the front of it came off. It depends. I have very acidic sweat. I could show you a neck on a guitar that you would swear someone did and did a fake relic on it, because the neck is literally like the dark spots on David's. The whole neck is like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally, the acidicness of my fingers wore all the lacquer off within about 2 years.
I believe a lot of it was definitely that. I just think, like somebody pointed out online, they like the back though, because he had the tray, the plexiglass tray, and the other thing on the 84 tour. And between 84 and when the 5150 tour started, and they weren't on the road in 85 really, and there was way more wear on the back. And like, how do you explain that? You know what I mean? It was like,
well, he would throw his guitar in the back of his truck too.
Yeah, everybody always talks about that story with Greg DiBenedetto.
But I agree with you, especially with the tray. In order for that tray to fit on there correctly, I'm sure he had to scrape some of that paint off and scrape some of the wood off. Because if you look at the guitar, there's wood missing as well. It's not as smooth as that. It's not as smooth as Rob's guitar. Right. There's wood missing.
And even on like here, I mean, like when you look at the digs here, I mean, like it's like who the hell picks like that?
Well, he does. That's the tremolo picking.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it's like it's like, oh my gosh. Like,
well, yeah, you're right, Rob. Because how do you break a coil like that on the pickup? I mean, Jim DiCola, I've been trying to get out of him. He won't give me anything. About, trying to pick up. Jim knows what kind of pickup it is. I said to him, I go, that's your 401k, that pickup. You know that? And he goes, yeah. You know what? You're right. He said. But he won't give you anything on it. I go, Jim, is it a JB? Come on, you can give me something here. And he's like, I'm not saying nothing. But he figured out very quickly what the problem. Ed said, here's the pickup. Find out what's wrong with it and try to duplicate it to make it another one that sounds just like it. And he said, apparently pretty quickly, Jim figured out exactly what it was and was able to duplicate it. So it was probably just a broken coil or whatever he did. He won't say, but he said he was able to. And at that point, Eddie didn't even care about it anymore. He said, yeah, just keep it. I guess he was so in love with the Wolfgang pickups at that point that he didn't even care anymore. But
so I'd say if they were it was just a broken coil or a couple. Yeah. I mean, it was just, I mean,
because it did have a unique sound. It almost sounded sometimes like a single coily kind of.
Yeah, it did.
know?
Yeah, it definitely did. The 5150 had a unique sound. It was, if you listen to, I know bootlegs don't always give, an accurate representation, but then again, sometimes they do. Even when you listen to a bootleg, show from 86, 88, it has a stratty kind of a sound to it.
Right.
Because then when you go to the Music Man, all of a sudden, boom, here's this, and again, I know he's using the 5150s and everything, but even when you listen to the Cabo Wabo grand opening show, when he was using the Soldano,
right.
That's basically the 5150s are just a modified Soldano.
Right.
It was a different sound, and that pickup had just a unique sound to it.
It cuts through like a single coil. It doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
Is that Cabo's show? That's the last time he played the 5150 live. Is that correct?
Yeah, as far as we know, that's the last time. Yeah.
In its original form in 2004.
Right. Because then he
brought it
replaced
back
it.
out, right.
He put a different neck on it and brought it back out.
Yeah. Different pickup, but yeah, it's definitely a unique sounding guitar. Obviously he liked it, because that was his main guitar that he played for all those years. So, and a lot of guys, the old, old school, they say the Frankenstein was the guitar, but for a lot of us, and I was in between. I saw them when he was playing that, the Frankenstein still. But I always, the 5150, I remember when I was 16, it was just like, I couldn't believe, I was like, I still have the magazines. It's just like, oh my God, this is the coolest guitar ever, So I still think it's my favorite guitar of all time. You know what I mean?
Me too.
I'm
For me, it was, seeing it in the live without a net, I'm just like,
yeah,
it's this freaking candy cane guitar. This is the freaking coolest thing.
I buy the broken coil theory. My pink headstock Kramer over there, it's got the stock Schaller pickup in it, and it's I don't know, it's like low output, so it like sucks if you're just playing, but if you really start like digging into it and trying to like play aggressively, it's like, holy hell, it kind of sounds like Ed's sound.
Yes, that would explain it, really. I guess it would, right?
If you guys want to see a real good, in my opinion, accurate representation of what this guitar sounded like in its heyday, watch the '89 Tokyo Dome show where Ed plays it. It's a soundboard recording, and you just hear when you hear him play the song 5150 in 1989, with a red shirt and the jeans, and he's playing the 5150. That whole show, he's just in guitar solo. It's got that raw kind of, just beefy kind of sound, but not too thick.
Yeah, I think, and that most of that show, I don't think the guitars though. I think you're right on that, but most of that show was re-recorded at 5150. Yeah, I think the guitars though are pretty much, they left them in pretty much intact, but I know a lot of the other stuff was. Was redone on that, but I agree with you on that song in particular, 5150 on there. You're right.
It was standard tuning.
Incredible.
It was standard tuning.
And I love the song 5150 standard tuning.
Yeah.
I did not dig it 2 steps down like Live Without a Net.
No.
That was just weird. It was a little odd.
Dude, any song 2 step or a step down, it sounds sluggish. It just doesn't sound right. But Chris and Don, the question for you guys is, so you guys make all different kinds of guitars and stuff like that. Now, you guys would know the popularity of the 5150 versus the Frankenstein. What do you guys get more interest in?
Yeah, good question.
People buying bodies and stuff like that. What is more popular out of those two?
Going off the analytics of the website and the basically the count on which product group gets more. With the release of the redesigned 5150, by and large, that one has been the top seller so far this year. But up to this point, I would say the Frankie was probably the king.
Oh, no kidding, really?
Yeah, I think in the long term, what the Frank has going for it is that Ed was constantly changing necks and bridges and pickups. So there are a bunch of people out there who have 6 different Frankenstein replicas of different eras. So therefore Right. Yeah. Multiple stages of paint. I mean, beyond the two that we know, you could build a bare ash Frankenstrat if you want. You could build a solid black Frankenstrat if you want. There's all these different versions you can do. So that, I think, boosts the Frankenstrat a bit, whereas the 5150 is just one body, one neck, unless you want to get really eccentric. But yeah, the 5150 has been crazy since we did these revisions.
All right. What do you think, Chris Hubbard?
He can't talk. He's painting my headstock. Oh, hey, what are you doing? No.
Hey,
Get back
am
in the
I actually
basement.
in here?
Yeah, you're in
Here
here.
he is.
My
What's
man.
up, guys?
What's up, dude?
What's going on?
Hold that thing up. Let's get a look at that.
My chicken wing?
No, the other wing.
Oh,
Cubs, you drinking yet or what?
maybe. What's up, guys?
What's going on? So
That is masterpiece right there.
yeah, look at that.
Chris, can you show the grain? Let's talk about the grain for a minute. Chris, can you explain the grain process that you do a little bit with this? Now, Chris,
Yeah, I didn't carve any grain. This is all natural mahogany.
Mahogany.
yeah,
That
Great.
looks incredible. Look at that. That is incredible.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's just from playing it too. There's no natural. I didn't do anything. I've just been playing it.
Now,
Okay,
Chris, did you put a table tray and then the paint mysteriously just disappeared off the back?
I actually feel bad. I haven't touched the back of my. This is all from masking. I still haven't finished the back of mine yet.
That's funny. The front's a masterpiece and the back looks like shit.
It does.
He can't stop doing it. He's doing like 50 of these things. He can't even spend any time on his
I
own.
know. I want to finish mine. I kind of finished down here, but the front is totally done.
Gorgeous.
That looks great.
Next is a lock net.
I got you beat, Chris. Mine doesn't even have paint on it.
He played
Alright.
it so much.
That's fine.
Is it all put together, Chris Locke? You have it all
Kinda. I mean, it doesn't have frets in it, so I mean, it's gonna be a 7th headstock neck, and yeah.
You got a lot of people
Okay.
in the seventh headstock there. You got a lot of those. A lot of people going for that look.
No, honestly,
What's
I would say
86?
less than 5 that we've done so far this year, right, Don?
Oh, no kidding,
Yeah,
really?
something like that. Yeah.
What is the most popular era? Do you guys think they live without a net era or 88?
86. Everyone wants the 86.
86.
Yeah.
86.
For
Yeah,
sure.
you
Oh,
think
really?
so?
I thought,
Yeah.
Cubs, I thought it
Absolutely.
was the 88 version. I thought you and I were saying 88.
Well, 80,
Kind of close.
84 is too clean. 88. Yeah, a lot of people like the 88, but it for most people it's the live without a net.
Yeah.
Why don't we split the difference and call it 87?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Saturday Night Live
86.5.
version. Hey, Tony, why don't you do that trivia question real quick before we forget about that? Really, just throw it out there.
All right.
If you guys know the answer, don't say it. If some of you do, I know.
I don't
All
even
right.
remember it.
Okay.
So we're gonna play for
There you go.
fair warning pass.
Fair warning passes.
All right.
Somebody say.
All right. One question only, Van Halen trivia. If you're the winner, there's an email address down below. Email or trivia winners email. Email me your name and address. I'll mail you that fair warning pass out tomorrow.
You get a free Chris Hubbard paint job.
That's it.
All right.
I'm gonna answer that.
I think I've got them. I try to make these harder and harder. So here we go. Good luck. First correct answer that we see is the winner. Right at you right now. In 79, we had the World Vacation Tour. In 82, we had the Hide Your Sheep Tour. What was the name of the 1983 South American Tour?
That's a great.
Roger Salami. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought 83 was Hide Your Sheep.
The category is 18th century poets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Chris Hubbard, you need to buy yourself a PRS Silver Sky and get yourself in a John, what's his name?
Mayer.
John Mayer tribute band. You look just like him.
I love John Mayer.
I love him too. You look just like John Mayer.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm telling you the truth, man. Like John Mayer.
No, I love John Mayer.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
Actually, let me show. I don't know.
I think you look more like Christian Bale, to be honest.
Christian Bale.
I
Yeah.
don't even know who that is.
Well, Chris,
Christian Bale and specifically like the Dark Knight movies.
Hobbs,
Hey,
I really,
He's got
Hobbs, I
that
like,
vibe going on. Bruce
After I
Wayne,
lost
what's up?
30 plus pounds in 6 weeks, now I'm Christian Bale in The Machinist.
Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm
that was the
Christian
weirdest
Bale
thing.
from The Machinist.
Losing all my muscle, like, was the weirdest thing.
Hobbs, I really like you a lot. You've been a great friend, but I'm not going to tell you your body's a wonderland. So
Not on the air
That's
anymore.
not what I heard about you, Rob.
Wow.
I heard about you.
Dave, don't get jealous.
I'm not jealous.
I spent an afternoon with John Mayer's brother Carl,
Did
and
you?
I didn't even know it, and his wife.
Oh,
and
was
I
his
did-
body a wonderland?
And it was so weird because I look at him and I go, this guy looks just like John Mayer. That's so weird. And I didn't realize, I didn't put two and two together. His name's Carl Mayer until, I was with them for like a whole afternoon. I was doing work on their house and the wife was the coolest. Awesome. It was great. And then after I left, I look, I'm like, oh my God, it's Carl Mayer. I Google it and sure enough, there's a picture of him and John Mayer together. And it was like about his wedding to the wife that was there, and Katy Perry was there. I'm like, oh my God. But I have to say, they were the nicest people
That's
ever.
freaking awesome.
His wife was getting into Star Wars and stuff. He was getting her into Star Wars. So she was watching all the movies and she was like a totally cool wife. I have to say it was a pretty weird afternoon. Anyway, that's my Mayer family story.
Excellent.
We got to go to some of those same swinger parties you go to, John.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, real swinging. Let's talk about Star Wars.
I feel like I think that's probably the safe word.
So now that we got all you guys here, and, Nick is the only one that's missing. I don't know if he's in there. He may be watching this out there. But,
Yeah, we need Nick.
Yeah. Do you guys get
guitar historical
sick of building these guitars? Honestly, I'll go one by one. Do you guys get sick of building these guitars at all? Like these 50-50 guitars, or can you do these in your sleep now? Can you tape these things up without even looking at a picture anymore? Go ahead,
your winner right
Neil,
there.
start with you, Neil. Go around the horn.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't get sick of them yet. Yeah, I'm probably close enough to doing the tape jobs without looking at a template now or a picture of it. I'm getting there. But the one thing that I don't do enough of them consistently in a row without something breaking the mold to keep my level of interest. Like right now, I don't know if I should show it or not. Right now, I'm doing a Relic 5150 in purple for somebody. And that alone, just the color scheme is kind of a shock to the system, and it keeps it interesting for me. Or I've done a Shamrock Green Frankie, and for certain people, and those kind of refresh recharge the batteries, if that makes sense. And then the next time somebody wants a regular, 86 5150, I'm all fired up for it again.
Do you prefer doing the 5150s over the Frankies? Are they a little bit easier? Obviously, they should be easier to do.
Oh, it's easier. Yeah, it's easier.
Email me your stuff, guitar archives. Thanks.
I don't think I have a preference. I think I've done a lot more 5150s. The Frankie obviously has multiple layers and steps to it, so it takes longer. So it's more work intensive, I think.
Neil, what kind of paint are you using for the 5150s? For red, what color paint are you using?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think I've evolved my own color template or pattern as I've gone on. The most recent ones are that, John, we've talked about this before, the GM 7753 or whatever that is.
Yeah,
that's the one I've done most recently, but before that I was doing a string of them that was the DE 1607, I think, or 1620, whatever that one was. And
I like that
it's
7753. I like
yeah,
that.
I do too. It's really funny though, you know, no matter what. And Dave, when I was on your show, Dave, we talked about this for a long time. I still have a hard time. Every time I look at it, I feel like it looks too orange to me. And you and a lot of other people have said, nope, that's the right color. In person, that's what it really looks like. But my head still, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that because I always think of Eddie wanted red, white, and black guitars. So
what's his name? The guy from Trickster, he said it that we all have it wrong. He says that it's more red than you guys are making them. He said it's definitely more red.
And it's funny, John, because when Hubbs and I were actually, well, when we took a trip to see the actual Frankie at the Met, we made a stop at, well, I'm not going to say who it was, but we had a stop at somebody's house that actually has seen many times the real 5150, and we got to see some pictures that no one else has seen of like high definition pictures of the 5150, and it's freaking, to me, looks orange. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Hubbs, what do you think? I mean, to me, it looked orange in those pictures.
Which guitar again?
The 5150, when we stopped off on the way to Scott's that time and saw those pictures, didn't that look orange to you? The 5150, those pictures of it in the sun, sitting on the pavement.
Yeah, I remember Adam showed us some pics. But,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But you know, I'm not one of these guys that is hardcore. You know, this guy painted it. This is the wood. You know, this is the paint color. All I know is it obviously from its inception has a little more orange tint than the rest of them. You know, you look backstage at those 84 picks, Hot for Teacher, 5150. You can obviously tell the 5150 has an orange tinge to it. I see guys that argue, oh, it was in the sunlight or in the stage lights more, but you know, from the inception, you could see the 5150, you know, sitting there in the Hot for Teacher, and they're
the warm-up room.
They're two different shades. I'm not one of these guys where I don't think it's, you know, if you ask me if it's if it's Schwinn versus the GM code, you know, I want to know the truth myself. I have no you know, final answer on this stuff, but it's definitely something different than the Hot for Teacher and stuff like that. There's this one, the Neptune, the 84, and then I call them the there's a three. What's the tennis player there?
Vitas Gerulaitis.
Though I call those the triplets. You got that one, the auction, and there's another one. There's similar stripe jobs, and they're all the same color. There was a batch done with this particular paint that has a little more orange in them.
Yeah,
and you know, whatever that paint was, it's a little more orange.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of these guys where it was the GM paint, it was the Schwinn. I'm not one of those guys. All I know is it's something. The 5150 was done in that batch where it was a little more orange.
Right. John, I think going back to your question too, real quick, Rob, and then jump in, Rob.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting too that I have to fall back on the fact that color, your eyes can play optical illusions on you when you put that red up against a yellowing white stripe over time, when it's, you know, as the Wimbledon white or whatever, that type of thing, when it was first painted fresh white, as it yellows over time, our eyes are going to see the guitar more orange. Yeah. And that's just the way, you know, I have to accept that, even though my brain doesn't want to wrap around it. It makes sense logically.
Sure. Well, I mean, Hubbard did both of these. I mean, this is my 5150, and this is my Hot for Teacher. And Chris, did both of these. He painted this Hot for Teacher right at my house. And it's hard to tell, but I mean, you can kind of tell it's a little more red.
Oh yeah.
Than the 5150. And
that's absolutely beautiful, Rob. That is a beautiful guitar right there.
Oh, I mean, Hubbs just freaking nailed it. I mean, he nailed every little piece to it, to the fogging, and I mean, it's hard to. I still don't know how these guys do this the way that they do. I mean, it's just
it's like an art now. Exactly. Hey, Chris Hubbard, are you sick of doing these guitars?
Yeah.
Get sick of it before you get done with my neck, please.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sick of it.
Yeah. That's such a loaded question now.
Hey, this is my last one. Damn it.
All right. Hey, there it is. There it is.
And
my next evolution, I think I'm going to do a multi-laminate body where it's swamp ash on the front and basswood on the back, because no one can seem to figure it out.
It's really so cool though to have this group of people in this call tonight.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if anybody in the chat has got any questions before we run out of time here. So
yeah,
if you got any questions, throw them up there, and we'll throw it out there. But I mean, these guys right here that you're looking at, other than the kid and and Craig Stoffco too. We got to give a shout out to Craig. Craig is a busy guy too with all this stuff. That is pretty much the top of the food chain with this stuff. You got it right here. So if you got any questions, now's the time to ask them about it. And
Chris Hubbard, what kind of wood do you think is in the DeLorean?
The DeLorean. There actually is wood in the back panels. There's plywood. So yeah, that's my answer.
Is it Baltic birch or is it maple?
Yeah, are we talking birch? Are we talking?
Is there a debate about the weight of it?
No, Rob, the Hot for Teacher that you were just holding up. What is the radius on that neck?
That's going to be a 12-inch because it's probably from Musicraft.
Yeah,
and their next 12-inch radius.
Okay.
And actually,
they're going to be a little flatter. Okay.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is that what I've seen on the vintage Kramer necks is I think their spec was 10-inch, but because of the thick finish on them, I think sometimes when they were polishing them, they would get a little flatter. So you can find vintage Kramers that are more like a 12 than a 10, but they're pretty similar radii, and I think that's just the difference of polishing the finish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm going to say too on the 5150 before, I'm trying to think of things that we didn't touch on. I think before we wrap it up, but I think the body. I'm not going to get into. I'm not talking about poplar, basswood, ash. I'm not going to jump down that hole right now. But I think what we did. I don't know if we mentioned it, but it's actually the body shape was actually a modified Pacer special.
Mm-hmm.
Was not a Beretta, but it was a modified Pacer special. And one thing I just want to talk about real quick is the space tape. I see so many. This is something that I see a lot. Oh, you can actually get a real good shot at the grain here that Chris did. When he did mine, you can really get a good shot there. How he just nailed it, and it doesn't look too labored. I mean, he just knocked it out of the park on the.
Amazing where that white where it's worn off right there on the way. That looks like so natural. It doesn't look, it looks incredible. It looks like really like he sat there with his arm.
It doesn't look labored at all.
Sat there rubbing his arm against it for hours.
Chris, what you do with pressboard is really amazing.
Hey Rob, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
Okay.
I think it was a Pacer special.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, Chris, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
I think it was a Pacer special based on what we've seen. Sports quality control sucks, so they were all different, and I think it was just that's what they made. It wasn't anything custom. It was just here you go.
So just a basic Pacer special, you're saying?
Yeah, they just sanded it a little differently. That's all.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just it does have the characteristics of it, but it does look like it was sanded a little bit. I was Chris, you and I've been Locke. You and I've been back and forth over this for like 5 years now, right? But
I mean, it helped 3D scanning 2 of them, and then Don got his own, and we've dissected it also, and while they were all basically made around the same time, they're not the same, like not even close. So,
and they're not the same in ways that can be explained by a manufacturing process where heavy manual sanding was done around the edges in the shape. But you get all these weird details, these ghost routes in the spring cavity, and the way there's a little notch on the corner. The original has it. All of our Pacers have it, but they all have a different shape. So.
That's interesting.
You know, it's just quality.
There's things that line up between the various bodies, but then there's other things that are way off.
Yeah.
Like one of the weird things on at least the Pacers I have here, one of them has like a 7/16 roundover that kind of morphs into like a 5/8 because heavy-handed sanding.
Right.
But then my other one that which I think better closely resembles the 5150 ultimately. It has a 3/8 radius, and it gets a little heavy-handed around it. But their quality control is just garbage. So that's why this guitar is such a bastard to make. Because,
right.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
You just can't get one and then say, "Yep, we're good." No, we thought that was going to be the case, and then we started seeing more. It's like, well, damn, now I got to buy that one and see if it's the same as what I got.
Well, and that's the truth because you definitely need more than one. You need 2 or 3 because there are a lot of things that, like you were saying, are different on every one. The elbow cut up here is different on every one.
Honestly, after the 3D scan, they're more alike than not, which is weird. The thing that is a little different is this here is a little different, but as far as the actual contour itself, it's more or less in the same spot on all of them.
But it's a different thickness. It's a different thickness on every one of them.
What do you mean?
Up here, the thickness where it comes down, it's a different thickness on all of them. I've had 3 separate ones, original 82s in the last year. Every one of them is different.
I don't know. I mean, 3D scanning doesn't lie.
Just telling you.
Hard to say. Well, one thing I was going to mention too is just a couple things for you guys out there that are making them. You got to make sure you put the Allen wrench dings in the bottom. You got to get the Allen wrench dings. And I'm going to say one thing that this is. And anybody out there that's making the 5150s and doing the modifications, I mean, it depends how close you want to get. But my biggest pet peeve is the space tape. If you put the wrong space tape with those tiny little fucking prisms in them, it looks disgusting. It totally ruins the guitar. So, guys, I'm just going to give everybody out there one clue. The EVH or the Van Halen,
store sells them. Yeah,
is the best stuff you're going to get. Whoever uses that stuff with the tiny little prisms, oh my gosh, it's an eyesore. Rip that crap off. Put on this stuff here because that is the closest we're ever going to get to the real stuff that they had back in the 80s. And I know a couple people that have the real stuff. Get this stuff here, and for the Van Halen store and EVH, if you guys really want to make a killing, put out some 1984 space tape too, please.
Yeah, right.
And you can use that for the 918V as well, because you don't have to do 918V because the V is just 2 1s overlap. That's all it was.
Yep.
So, and also, Eddie says he took a Sharpie, right, and ran it around the 5 and the 1 and the 5. That's what he says. I don't really see evidence that much of it. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I've heard both ways. I've heard that he did, and I've heard that they came all cut like that from mailboxes. I still don't know.
I have no idea either. Yeah. And I have one more thing to say. If you want an accurate replica, don't buy a Music Yo Kramer or a Gibson Kramer and make your replica out of that. It's not even close to the right body or neck. Not even close. So if you're looking for like the kind of fakakta way, don't do it that way. Just
I think
go to one of these. Go to one of these guys. Go to Neil Daly. Go to Chris Hubbard if he wants to still build them. Come to me and Nick. You know, go to the Guitar Whisperer. Come to one of us, and we'll build you a guitar. We'll do it correctly. It may cost a bit, but you'll have the most accurate replica. Don't try to do the easy route. And for God's sakes, don't use a Floyd Rose special.
Yeah.
Words to live by. Words to live by.
Hey, that's probably a good point to wrap it up. It's almost at the 2-hour mark right here. But the plate on the back we did not discuss. Real quick, Rob, I guess frets on the net, you can get those, right?
Yep, B4129 is the number.
Right there. And Chris Hubbard, you got yours up there. There we
David
go.
Westcott is actually making the correct ones now.
I have one here too.
The engraving he was using was actually wrong before, but now he's got the right engraving. It's not the diamond cut engraving; it's the right stuff. And
I just got this from Dave today.
And that's frets on the net, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave Westcott,
So anybody who needs that. So I think we basically covered everything about the guitar right there. You guys, anybody out there who wants to build
Is that
one?
the large? Is that the large plate, or is that the small plate?
This is the it's standard. It's standard.
So it's
Neil's a goofball. He orders them with the standard space,
right?
These are what I'm going based on what people are requesting.
And hang tight for Michael McGuire, because McGuire will also be making the steel B4129 plates.
Oh, okay. Any timeline on that?
Mike, jump in now. I know
you in the chat.
And he's making his out of steel, not aluminum.
Yeah, those are aluminum, right? The frets on the net are aluminum, correct?
Aluminum.
Yeah, they bend if you over tighten them.
Yeah, I did that.
Well, the original did too, but it's not going to bend like you want it.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Here's one for you. So, do we know with any certainty that it has 6?
Oh, yeah. Every one of Ed's guitars do.
Every one of them. Okay. So there 2 of them are just under the plate on the 5150.
Right. Yeah.
And then probably the 1984 that has a 4-screw plate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what's interesting about that? When I talked to Paul Unkert, we were discussing maybe doing the Kramer double neck with an actual aluminum neck, and that's way down the line. But when I talked to Paul about that, I was looking at pictures of this thing, and those aluminum necks attached with machine bolts, not with screws. But if you look at Eddie's double neck that Paul Unkert built, it has 4 wood screws, and where those screws go, they go right into the wood cheeks. So I thought, the wood cheeks are held on with epoxy. He's not trusting this thing to hold from the glue of the wood cheeks. And Paul told me, you know what? I do recall that we had 2 machine bolts hidden under the plate, and then the 4 wood screws just to look the same. So I'm thinking that's kind of where that idea started to come from. We don't know when the Frankenstrat allegedly got the 6, the 2 hidden bolts, but it was interesting to me that the Kramer double neck, the aluminum neck, actually has 2 hidden bolts as well.
Yeah,
that's pretty weird.
Are you guys talking about the 5150 having 6 bolts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, we were. Yeah.
Oh, Rob, do you have that? Is there still a debate if there was 4 versus 6?
There are 2 bolts underneath the plate.
Since when?
There's always been two bolts underneath that neck plate.
Rob, you still have that picture from from 04 when the Charvel neck was put on?
I think it's only a pic. You talking about the picture of the body when it was sitting there?
Yeah, with the neck off, and you could see the Kramer plate is set on the work table upside down. It's all rusty.
Hold on, let me take a peek. I might, if you guys want to chat for 2 seconds, give me just a minute, and I can see if I can find.
Hey, Tony, do we have a winner in the trivia question?
Yes, we did.
What do we got?
Guitar Historical Archives.
Wow!
Excellent.
Right there.
Awesome.
Darren, who was that?
Yeah, it's
Fair
Darren.
warning pass.
Boy,
Very
Darren,
cool.
you came on strong here tonight, man.
Darren knows his stuff.
Right
Darren.
on.
Nice, Darren.
Yeah.
And
So
also, guys, we were just talking about the plates, and I think Mike McGuire. What did he say about the plates? Because I wanted to just get an idea how he's definitely going to be happening, I guess, right? There is a secret to those plates. That was Guitar Historical Archives. Yep, Mike knows. Okay. Oh, at chrome plating right now. So I guess this is going to happen pretty soon then. And Mike, do you have a website or a page or anything? Or do we have it up here? Because I want one of those.
Mike's incognito.
If you can't, yeah, there's too many of you guys are incognito. Reveal yourselves. Yes, 2 weeks or less. All right, cool. So if you could just throw it somewhere where I can contact you, or we can, whoever wants, we can contact you, that would be awesome.
Hubs,
we'll
is this
put
the
it
picture
down in the description.
Hubs, is that the picture you're talking about?
Yeah. Zoom up.
Zoom up.
Zoom up on that.
Back. Go back.
We got a couple holes there from the
paint stick.
The paint stick, yeah. That's from 04. And if you could scoot over, you could see the original Kramer plate, rusty as hell on the backside. You probably have to zoom out on the pick. But I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Here it is.
I think this is the.
Wow.
This is the pick where it got the neck plate got it routed a little wider for the Charvel neck. But
Rob, could you send me that after the show?
Yep.
How many screws are in that picture?
And the interesting thing is I'm not seeing 6 screws. I'm only seeing
it looks like it's only 4.
I think that's just 4, and then those are the original paint stick screws from 82, 83 when it was painted.
Yeah, and this picture is from when they were putting the Charvel neck on it for the 84 for the 04 tour.
Yeah, those other screw holes look much smaller too. So I guess that would be the paint stick. Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Right.
Yeah. And then some tape on the bridge to hold the non-T blocks in, because at this point only the A and the D are the only original saddles on that Floyd.
Yep.
Right.
So
Whoever that tech was just threw that tape on there just for precaution. But
Mike says 4 neck holes. So here's a real good picture. Here's another good picture you can see of the grain.
Oh yeah, that's excellent.
Wow, look at that.
Oh whoa.
Yeah, so in regards to the additional holes, I mean, we know he did that on the Frank because Chip Ellis saw it and did it on the replicas, but the Frank definitely needed it because that was a sloppy pocket to begin with, and it was a standard 5/8 steps. But if I'm to speculate a bit from having built so many guitars, the 5150 and those Kramers might not have needed it because the pocket was so deep, meaning the screws went further in the neck and had more torque to hold it, and maybe the neck was fit a bit better. So it's certainly something Ed seemed to do as needed, but that picture seems to I thought it was 2 hidden screws as well. But that picture
I was told that every one of his guitars had that.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting too is because Dave brings
very
up
rare picture.
Dave brings up a good point because Ed always liked, a lot of those, like the Vitas guitar, a lot of the others had the 6 because he wanted that extra support. But if you look at the 5150, all those years, it only had 4. That's kind of strange with all the jumping around he did.
Rob, for all we know, though, Eddie might have said he put 6 in all of them, and that might not have been true.
Exactly.
But listen, but Don said when the aluminum necks, they were, maybe that's where that originated from. So maybe maybe Eddie did actually put together the 5150 because the ones that they seem to make at Kramer had the 6, and maybe he did put that one and they only put 4.
So,
maybe
the aluminum neck is just a baseline speculation, and it's a bit different because they're using machine bolts. So the aluminum neck has a spine that goes up the back, and it's like a T extrusion, and it has to be centered because it has to hit that aluminum, the machine bolts. Well, you see a 4-bolt neck plate, and those wood screws would be hitting the wood cheeks. They wouldn't be holding anything structural. So my thought to Paul was, did you guys do a regular aluminum attachment method and then just put the plate over it? And he said, yeah, I think that's what we did. So, but that may have been the catalyst to explore more attachment bolts because Eddie was having the problem with the Frank being kind of loose. it was all happening at the same time. So
Right.
there's any number of ways it could have evolved.
Hey
Yeah,
guys,
it's
I
a
gotta
thought,
say,
though.
I gotta say goodnight.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up anyway here.
Past my bedtime.
Yeah.
Dave,
We are.
pleasure, bro.
David,
Pleasure. Thanks for
7
joining.
o'clock.
love you, brother. Be well.
Thank you,
All right,
Dave.
guys.
And I don't think we
Dave,
have any
thanks.
questions in the chat there. I mean, everybody can watch the show back and you know pick up all the little things that were in there. And I guess we'll have some somewhere in here, Tony, in the description. I guess you'll have some websites and information like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dave's is always down in the description.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
great
you,
night.
Yep.
See you,
Everyone in the
Dave.
chat, thank you so much.
You
I'll
will,
talk
buddy.
to you all soon.
Nice.
Rob,
David.
I'll see you Friday.
Yeah,
Rob.
I seen you.
All right, buddy.
Seen you, Dave.
See
got
you,
it.
Dave.
Later. Bye.
Thanks. And
Dave.
and as we wrap it up here, I just want to thank you guys because I think we, you know, it was a pretty informative show tonight, and I think you know, there's a lot of information here. A lot of people can use. They can just refer to this last 2 hours and pick up a lot of, you know, information about building one of their own or having somebody else build it, one of you guys or whatever, and sourcing a lot of the, you know, the necks and bodies and parts and stuff like this. I think we kind of covered everything on here.
John, let me just throw out there real quick too. Anything we didn't cover in this particular episode too, I want to refer people back to Rob Johnson's show on the 5150 and some of the Kramer stripe things. That's where I learned most of the stuff that I've acquired knowledge over time. And Rob goes on by himself for 2 hours and talks about it. So it's pretty
I
good
need to do
stuff.
an updated one. I got to do an updated one because there's definitely some misinformation that I put out a few years ago when I watched that show. And anybody watching this, yeah, I mean, there's some good information on that, but there's a few things I get in about the wood and stuff and whatever. And I mean, I'll go on record. I don't, you know, I still believe the 5150 is basswood based off of people that have seen it, played it, and whatever. I mean, I don't really care what anybody says about any scientific. We haven't seen anything that proves that. I have not seen any documentation that actually proves it until someone actually shows me that, whatever, versus reading something in an article. I'm going to listen to the guy that I know has been looking at the guitar since 1995.
And spent quality time with it, right? And
that's just, that is just my opinion. That's nothing more. I may be wrong, and I mean, who knows? Maybe it is ash. Maybe it is poplar.
I do think it's funny when those people come out there and they're like, I know for a fact it's the blah, blah, blah. Those always make me laugh out loud.
We don't know, but like I said, wood is very different. It breathes different. I mean, like I said, I listen to all these folks and I take everything in that I hear. And I'm just going to go on record right now that I don't know everything about this stuff. I get proved wrong on a daily basis about stuff, and I still learn stuff every single day studying this, and it's an honor to me. So I honestly just have so much fun talking about this stuff and debating it, and in a good way. I mean, we're all fans. We don't make money off this stuff, but you know, I mean, we're just fans, you know, and at least I am, anyways. But I thank everybody out there that watches this stuff that has information, and I just hope information keeps coming out. But you know, that video that I did do, I mean, I want to do an update to that because I've learned so much from Donny, from Chris, from the other Chris, from all the folks, Neil. I mean, everybody. I mean, so there's definitely some stuff I would like to add to do another video on the 5150.
Cool.
But
Rob, you mentioned the word debate, and I think that's great. I want to, Donny, I got it. We've talked about this privately in the past, but you are one of the most intelligent and respectful debaters that I've seen. You've got a way, and for some reason, I'm shocked that I keep seeing people try and come at you, and I don't know why. And you've always handled it so well with you can bury people with knowledge, and yet you've never come across to me as pompous, arrogant stuff. You know, I honestly, I think just about, I give kudos to everybody in this group. I think this is a very classy group of people. And I've always respected intelligent debate. I can certainly be acknowledged when I'm proven wrong, but if it's handled respectfully, and Donny, you're very good at that. And I've said that before in the past, and I'll keep saying it.
I appreciate that, Neil, and you've always been a good guy to me. I've enjoyed our discourse we've had since you first came on the scene, as far as I was aware. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that I don't know and will never know, and that's how you have to approach this stuff. The same way Rob's, said it, the same way Chris Locke will tell you. I mean, we all have something to learn. And that's why, Chris, Locke, and I are making revisions to the stuff that we once said was right, because we find new information and we realize that we have to keep looking at this because it's so hard to get it spot on. And that goes for the history of things too. And I'm glad I don't come off as pompous, though I think sometimes I can get a bit heated, but I try my best, because when people want to know things, I was once that person who wanted to know things. And if I know something that, or even have some inkling of information I can offer, I think it's healthy to have that, because it tests the ideas that we think are true against other competing ideas. And that over time leads to knowing the truth, slowly but surely.
It's like you guys are like forensic, investigator. You're very methodical, and
it gets deep. It gets real deep.
Yeah, and I think we appreciate
CSI Van Halen.
Yeah, right, exactly. I think we appreciate that. I know the hardcore people definitely appreciate that, because you guys are, you keep searching, for more information and stuff like that. So that's always a good thing. So I appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody else does too, that's into this kind of stuff, even though, people think we're crazy,
Guys, I just got one thing. This picture I showed, I just got notification. This is from 2017.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
2017. Not more.
That picture was taken 2017.
That's what Johnny Bean just told me.
Okay.
2017.
Cool.
So that's probably the most recent.
I thought I seen the pic before then, but
Johnny just texted me and said this picture came from 2017.
That's amazing.
You're wrong, Johnny.
I think the only more recent picture is the one where it's on his wall in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Do you guys remember? Well, you guys remember what we were talking about with Dave before we went live?
Yes.
I'll bet you that's got something to do with that.
Nice. Well,
maybe. Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? John, you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you mean. Yes.
Okay. I bet you
that would make a lot of sense.
That makes sense.
Well, anyway, guys, so we'll wrap it up. I know everybody's got to get up early tomorrow. I know.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Chris
You guys
dragging over there.
Killed it.
5 a.m., right?
You guys just gave me an
Locke's
excuse to
probably
call in.
dragging because of me.
A long day. And Don's got to get back to making those necks, and Hubbard, you got to finish Rob's neck. So you guys got to get back to work. You've had enough of a break, okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna dip out, but all I'm gonna say is let's do another one of these soon.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to say all night, you guys are freaking out about bodies and necks and stuff. I leave that up to you guys, the pros. To me, I really pay attention to the stripes. That's kind of my thing. And kind of the color. So I don't sit here, I don't argue about who painted it or what color paint, what brand paint, what pickup, what Floyd, all that stuff. I just care about the paint job. That's kind of my thing. But I will say I'll give a shout out to my brothers Jerry Leica and Scott Smith, and my good friend Chris Locke, who I've been ordering stuff from for years when it comes to these bodies and necks, and my best bud Rob Johnson, and just keep it fun, you guys.
I got a question for you, Chris.
Yep.
Did you do any sealing or any grain filling of the likes on any part of that body?
No, this is just. That's why I hate when people order ash, because I just like to paint. Oh, this is just a raw basswood body with a nice coat of white.
And yet you had to carve in some grain on that forearm contour, right?
On this particular one, yeah.
And perhaps every piece of basswood that's ever been cut in history, but that's another discussion.
Yeah. So that's the only comment or any statement I'm going to make on the wood is that.
All right. Yeah. Hey, I'm not arguing. Like I said, I want to do a part 2, but not to be a smarty pants or nothing, but you know, I see these guys freaking out about, you know, necks and bodies and woods and colors and who painted them. But all I'm gonna say is, I don't know. I don't want to sound. I do this. This is my passion. I love painting these. I do it for fun. But you know, I'll see these guys freaking out about stripes and color and body and stuff. You know, and I see them. You know, they nail, you know, the body and the paint and the color and everything, but they'll stripe them up in 1 week, and I see a couple stripes off. It's like, if you're going to go this hardcore with the body shape and the color, you know, you gotta. To me, I've told this to Rob for years now. I would rather have 100% paint job on a focus body, than a half-ass paint job on a body that was scanned from Ed's original.
There you go.
End of sentence for me.
Have another shot.
Hey,
Yeah.
No,
I think you make a really good point, though. I think
I'll say-
it's as long as it passes the eye and the ear test.
I'll say one more thing. I think it's funny that we're all arguing over wood. We're all arguing over what we see. None of us can tell what this is made out of by ear. We're all going by eye. Period. Who's next?
Well, Ed told me it's made out of this, so
yeah. Well, I know for a fact it's.
That's why I'm not sitting here preaching. I think this is blah blah blah. You know, I just like painting the stripes and the relic stuff. You know,
That's it's so much fun doing.
To
that.
me,
I don't care
all
what
I
it is.
care about is pickup.
Locke, I'm with you. I don't care.
I think it's
Whatever.
wood.
I mean, if you guys want it made out of bamboo, I don't give a shit. I'll make it out of bamboo.
Really? Is that seriously?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Japanese stem.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually for what it's worth, I'm using a wood that I don't believe the original was made out of, but for expediency and because it'll be easier to finish and it'll look right anyway, I'm just going to use a different wood than what I believe the original was.
Well, I'm just going to go on record to say one thing, and that is the Circles guitar is midnight blue, not black. And I've been getting so much crap over that, but I'm telling you, I know it's midnight blue.
Right on, Rob.
Oh my God! That's good.
One last thing, I honestly, I'm one of these guys that I would love if Wolf had the guitar tested, you know, and you know, I'm not, you know, if it's ash, you know, to me, it's. I would love to know the true answer because there is no fact right now.
So
that's my final.
The speculation about the wood is based on the grain or the weight or what?
Yes, everything.
We'll be here for another 4 hours if we open this can of worms.
But the discrepancies mainly come from the grain,
rabbit hole all night.
I know.
You can't really weigh a piece of wood, though, and determine exactly what the type of wood is because a piece of ash can vary tremendously. A piece of poplar can vary tremendously.
Depending where it's grown.
It definitely helps.
I've been building these damn things for, I don't know, probably 14 years now. And I have not run across a species of wood that looked just like that one. So they're all different, man. I mean, you can't take a piece of ash off of Google Images and go, "Hey, see, look, it doesn't look like this." It doesn't work that way.
My that's what I've been saying all this time. You know, that's my thing. You know, until one of us can tell by ear, none of us are Eddie Van Halen. You know, like I said, my focus is the stripes and the paint job. That's all. None of us are Eddie. You know, you could get a Marshall and have the same wood and everything. I don't give a crap anymore.
I may not be Ed, but
you know, and this might be the most
Donny, nice.
ever. What kind of wood is the 5150 made out of? You know, you guys will kill me, but I don't care. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, and honestly, and I don't know why it's like Donnie's like a moth to a flame with these debates on what the wood is. But, I mean, at this point, with the past probably 3 weeks of exhausting, it looks like this, it looks like that. Yeah, I don't fucking care, man. I don't.
Yep.
Like,
I'm with
whatever.
you. 100%.
It is what it is. Like,
couldn't have said it better myself. I don't care.
Like I said, I decided when we first revised this kit that I'm going to use a wood that I don't believe it is.
I love that. That's perfect.
It's just there's just an attraction to the debate.
Yeah.
I could.
So we all are not going anywhere near it.
Yeah.
No, not touching it.
We all know what the popular opinions are, though, out there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but I will say I got to bounce, guys. But one thing I will say when it comes to these new bodies, these new necks, huge shout out to Chris Locke. He's been building my bodies for almost 10 years now, and just I jump on these chats a lot and listening to Donny and seeing a lot of his necks in person. He just listening to him and seeing his products, he knows what he's talking about. There's a lot of guys doing this right now. I'll just say Chris and Donny, they're the top dogs. Period.
Thank you, buddy. You're the top dog in what you do, so appreciate that.
And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. And I want to thank you guys, Rob Johnson, Chris Locke, Donny Ward, Chris Hubbard.
It's been an absolute pleasure, you guys.
Charles, Tom, Tony,
awesome.
Thank you. Everybody in the chat,
Awesome.
Michael McGuire, Darren, thank you guys, and everybody else for adding stuff to the chat here too. And it was a fun show, and hopefully a lot of people can take a lot of information from it and use it as a reference, refer back to this, and if they're looking for some information. I think we covered it from top to bottom, the guitar pretty much, Joe Suma just texted me, I'm late and just tuned in.
I just want to say it was really great hanging out with everybody, but Charles and Tom and Neil, you three guys, I haven't had a chance to really hang out with you, and Fruitcake Tony and John. You guys, it was just nice hanging out with you guys. It's nice to see some faces that you see online all the time. So thanks for putting up with my nonsense for the last 2.5 hours.
Oh man.
Hey, remember EVH Con 2022, right, Rob? Come on, everybody, let's go.
Hey, is anybody going to NAMM?
I want to be there this one. Yep. No, not NAMM, but EVH Con 2022.
Oh, awesome. That'd be great. Yeah. I was actually going to go to the NAMM in June, but I think I'm going to hold off till next year because there's just not a lot of people going, and EVH isn't even going to have a booth there. So
Wow.
So I'm probably going to go next year.
I'm not going for this master built being debuted at NAMM 22 in June.
Yeah. I'm not going to NAMM until they collab with Locke Custom Guitars.
There you go.
Boom.
There you go.
Right on.
Very cool.
Everybody,
we'll
thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we will. We will have a part 2. Hubs, Chris, Donny, Rob.
Hey, one more thing, Tony.
Awesome,
one more thing. We forgot to mention that Noel Monk died in January, and I guess they just announced it today.
I just seen that.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're hearing that, but the part that it's not recent.
Yeah, I heard
is a little
January
disturbing.
19th. I heard, and I guess there was all kinds of maybe some legal stuff going on. They just announced it today, and I guess anybody of us who've had any kind of interaction with him, he was a little bit out there, poor guy, in the last couple of years. But I think he was, I enjoyed the book, and it was,
I reread it this week.
Yeah, interesting read, but I guess he was estranged from his daughter, and he was divorced from his wife. So I don't know the details of his death, but I hadn't seen him in a while. You used to see him all the time online there, but he was kind of quiet. So I don't know if he was ill or not, but rest in peace, Noel Monk.
Yeah, we just heard that today, and so he's a couple of months ago. I'm sure we'll hear more.
Yeah, some more about that over the next couple of days. But anyway, That's
Oh,
it.
by the way, Jerry Leica said he wants to be on part 2. He just texted me.
There you go, Jerry. You're in.
Very cool.
I asked him all night to be on this one. He doesn't listen to me.
I asked him too. He didn't know. I asked him. He's like, no. I like to watch. Well, I do too, but no.
Well, hey, now we know you got the, we have the Floyd Rose experts on here too. You got Darren and Mike and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So these are guys that we got to add to the list here of the top of the food chain here stuff. So
a lot of knowledge on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot, and
Part
this has been such a treat.
Part 2 is going to come. Part 2 definitely. But anyway, thanks again, guys.
Yep. Rob, Chris, Hubbs,
thank you,
and
Conklin.
Donnie.
Barney's in the house.
Thanks again. There's Barney.
That's Barney, man. Awesome.
Right on.
I do not have a huge smile when you see Barney.
He's like, I gotta take a leak, Dad. Let me out.
I know. I gotta take my dogs out too. Real quick, Rob. I'm just gonna say, in the terms of the Van Halen universe that we've all created, you're like Tom from MySpace for me because you're my oldest friend in the group.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I'm only 28 years old. What are you talking about?
For anybody out there, see if any kids still remember MySpace. But
I was on MySpace.
Me too.
Remember Tom was everybody's first friend.
Yep.
Rob and Dave were actually the first time I saw Rob or Dave at the same time. They were interviewing Kurt, the winner of the Lost Weekend.
Yes.
Oh,
and
God.
that's the first. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, they talk about Van Halen? Really?
Yeah, that's when Dave and I were doing the Johnny show, and I remember Johnny called me. He's like, "Hey, guess what we got tonight?" I'm like, "Who?" He goes, "Kurt Jeffries." I'm like, "The winner of the Lost Weekend."
Yeah, Kurt Jeffries. I don't know if he still lives there, but he lived when they did that. He lived not too far from where I live right now.
He's such a cool dude too. Tom.
Small Pennsylvania town,
Oh, the guy is just awesome. He's such a great guy.
That's a great analogy. Rob John, everyone's MySpace. One.
I know, right?
Each have a top 5 friends list, and Rob's number 1.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, fellas.
Okay, guys. I gotta
this
bounce.
has been fun.
Peace
We're
out,
out of here. We'll be back here next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, Halenville Live. Talk all things Van Halen. Any last words there, Charles Green?
Hey, guys, just don't forget, this is Halenville. Around here, every road leads straight to Van Halen. Be well and rock on.
Hell yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Great show, you guys.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Nice.